Namaste everyone. Welcome to Ayushman 2020. Ayushman Plus, in partnership with Indic Academy along with the ABP Research Foundation, is celebrating the gift of life, Ayurveda. Ayushman 2020 is being steered by the Center for Soft Power, a national think tank working towards mapping, documenting, and promoting various elements of India's culture and global influence, including Ayurveda. Today, we are celebrating Sthira, Ayurveda for Gen Z. Ayurveda, sometimes termed as Ayushveda, essentially springs from the word longevity, but it means longevity with self actualization, which means to fulfill one's potential. Ayurveda is about achieving the knowledge of self actualization by maximizing one's potential in all dimensions, the mental, physical, and spiritual, irrespective of what we may choose to become in life. The past couple of months, given the pandemic situation we have been in, health has become the central topic of any conversation. So, as we shift our attention more towards a healthy living, it is essential to understand the holistic perspective of health and the need for a balanced life, which comes with the relative knowledge of health, which is what Ayurveda and its practices provide. It is not enough to live a particular length of life, rather, how we can maximize the unique dimensions that are given to us in that length of life. And to get one step closer to that maximization, we have this unique opportunity for teenagers today through Sthira as part of Ayushman 2020 as an opportunity to gain knowledge about proceeding towards a life without illness and learn some DIY tips for self-care, some interesting careers in Ayurveda, and a lot more through interactive sessions, a short film, and activities. Ayurveda, about 25,000 years ago, stated that somebody whose appetite and metabolism is good, whose tissues are nourished properly, whose excretion is correct, and who has the prasanna atma indriya manahar, that means who has got a happy mind, sensory organs, and the soul, such a person is healthy. So, health, you see, is about the whole person in totality. And we must empower ourselves with the right knowledge. If I nurture my body, mind, spirit rightly from a young age itself, especially during the teenage years, I can run the entire life with energy and by maximizing my potential. And so today, through our sessions about Ayurveda, we will try to explore how to gain that self-knowledge and empower ourselves with a lifelong health. So we will begin our first session today, which is titled A Life Without Illness. When we hear this term, a life without illness, it sounds a bit of an overstretch because a lot of times we tend to accept that some form of illness is a given, especially given the lifestyles that we are in today. However, if we rightly acquire that self-knowledge and make efforts through small habits, we can actually live a life without illness. To facilitate our first session, A Life Without Illness, we have with us Smriti Rekha Adinarayanan. She is the co-founder of Anadi Foundation, a spiritual organization and ashram located in Tamil Nadu. She mentors the various educational, sustainability, and interdisciplinary efforts at Anadi Foundation. Anadi Foundation is dedicated to inspiring young people to lead a self-reliant and fulfilled life by blending insights from our Bharatiya Parampara and modern science. So I welcome you, Smriti ma'am, and thank you so much for joining us for our session today. I would also request all the participants to do share your questions with us, and we will definitely take the questions towards the end of the sessions. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us, and welcome, Smriti ma'am. I'll hand it over to you from here.
Namaste, all of you. Wonderful to be part of this effort. And this is such a significant thing because the entire world, especially during this pandemic time, is waking up to the Indian knowledge systems, because they're seeing that the traditional knowledge systems provide a very sustainable approach, cost-effective approach, and a unique personalized approach to the treatment and care of diseases and for the upkeep of health as well. And in fact, people who live abroad, some of my friends, are sharing with me how, right from childhood, where they were told about various diseases, various conditions, and such things. They were told about proteins, carbohydrates, and all that. But there was no systematic effort in terms of talking to them about building immunity, integrating those knowledge systems into their daily practices so that they can lead a healthy life. And hence, you can see that. One is God's grace, another is effective governance, the third thing is how we have lived our life as a civilization. We see that the impact of such diseases is quite contained in India. However, because of the population anyway, the spread and other things are quite high, but as a population we are quite robust, and we should thank our ancestors for it, for giving us this wonderful knowledge system. And that is what I'm going to talk about today. And I'm going to bring out some principles of living a life without illness, living a life without illness, right? I'll just share my screen here, and maybe I'll stop my video. Yes. So at any point in time, if somebody feels like sharing something, please do share. And if you have any question, you can definitely type it in the chat box or in the Q&A box. And in case I don't answer something, maybe one of you can just read out the question for me. Okay, just the
Yes, ma'am.
interface. Okay. So here I am to talk about a life without illness. And in one way, I consider myself fortunate to be talking about this, because you can say that touch wood or whatever. At least in our family, the life has been without illness. And the reason is that the systematic lifestyle processes that we follow, not in terms of a very strict discipline, like I won't eat this, I won't eat that, I won't go here, I won't go there, not in terms of that discipline, but simply looking at the foundational principles of health and being in alignment with those principles. And I have two sons, and except for those initial months, we have seen that fairly very reasonably well we have managed their health. That is mainly because of different dimensions of their life that we have taken care. So this also comes from a certain practical wisdom that we have been following, and also the knowledge system that I'm exposed to, and also in terms of whatever it has been passed down from my grandmother to my mother, from my mother-in-law to me, from so we, my husband's family are completely into natural medicines through herbs and other things. So this combined knowledge has helped us to design effective solutions, and these solutions are now available at our ashram, so that people who come to the ashram lead a very healthy and happy life. So that way, life without illness is such a beautiful thing, because there was a statistics some time back. They said that the one of the greatest worries of people who grow above the age of 55 is how will they spend for their health, how will they spend for their health care, and how will they get everything insured. So this seems to be the major concern. And if you take any if you take the World Health data, for example, the top 10 diseases, if you take, for example, the first one is coronary heart disease. That's the top cause of death worldwide. And then you have neonatal diseases, and then you have things like diabetes and other diseases. If you look at the top 3 or 4, all of them are related to actually a lifestyle process. So it could be related to the pressure of the blood, or the smooth flow of blood in the system without cholesterol blocking the passages. So it means that these are actually lifestyle problems, and a lot of it can be changed by just adopting a healthy lifestyle. So basically, a life without illness is a life with which is based on certain principles, and that too combined with traditional knowledge, it can be an amazing life. And especially you as teenagers, you have a bright future ahead, you have a long life to live, and hence taking small steps at this particular stage in your life can have a huge impact on not just you, but many, many generations to come. That's what we're going to look at today. So, what is health? Of course, the World Health Organization. It defines health as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. So, in fact, I'm going to talk about health more than about illness. And Ayurveda, of course, looks at it as a balance of the doshas, as Ayushi ji had just mentioned. And from the perspective of yoga, it is a perfect alignment of the mind, body, and the cognitive faculties. Basically, what you think, your body also does that, and also your cognitive, the intellectual faculties also aligned with all these processes. And it is in alignment with the larger nature and the cosmic cycles as well. So that is the Indian or the traditional way of looking at health. It does not look at it in a compartmentalized manner. What is happening in the current times, if you see, I'm not against modern medicine. I'm not a person who would say that don't pop a pill at all, because in some situations it works, your family situations differ, and I would not pop a pill, but I wouldn't suggest that to everybody, because you'll have to look at your own family situations and then have a consultation of either an Ayurvedic practitioner or a yoga therapist or whatever, and then make small changes to your uh, the treatment process. But however, what we have seen is that simple lifestyle choices itself can actually bring about these factors like balance of the doshas, alignment of the body and mind and the cognitive faculties. Then we can, then if there is something really wrong with the system, and then the therapeutic part comes. So simple changes to your lifestyle itself can work wonders. Again, so hence illness itself, right, or health itself can be looked at from the perspective, or ill health can be looked at from the perspective of the physical dimension, the emotion dimension, cognitive dimension, and spiritual dimension, right? So illness can be to do with the body. You can have physical ailments, you can have joint pains, you can have a cold, you can have a cough, or whatever it is, right? Or you can have a digestive disorder, that is illness from the perspective of the physical dimension. Or you can have illness of the emotional dimension, where people are now talking about mental health, people are talking about depression, and such things. Or you can also talk about cognitive illness in terms of not being able to pay attention, not being able to focus, or having some kind of compulsive behavior, or unable to grasp learning material, learning problems, learning difficulties, learning disabilities. All these are to do with the cognitive functions. And in spite of having a good physical health, good emotional health, and cognitive health, some people feel that their life is not fulfilling. So that can be an illness at the spiritual level. So you might need spiritual processes, some kind of a meditation or mindfulness or some kind of a spiritual process to heal that illness as well. Because some people can really feel empty, even though they may be, wealthy, even though they may be healthy on other dimensions, but they feel that they can do something more in life. They want something more in life. So that can be at the spiritual level as well. Right? Aishi ji, is the session, is my talk for half an hour? How much is it?
Yes, ma'am. Half an hour.
Okay.
Till 6:40 we have time.
Okay. And since I talked about illness from different perspectives, physical, emotional, cognitive, and spiritual, there is also another way of looking at illness in terms of roga or vyadhi. Okay. Illness is popularly known as roga or vyadhi in the Indian. There are other names as well, and can be categorized based on various factors. One classification is what I have presented here, okay, where it is to do with Adi Daivika, Adi Bhautika, and Adhyatmika. When all of you just say a prayer at home, you might be exposed to different prayers, but the common ones like Sahana Vavatu or Asatoma Sadgamaya, all the Shanti mantras, for example, they end with three Shantis: Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Those three Shantis actually are to do with achieving peace and harmony at these three different levels. One is Adi Devika level, where there is a cooperation of the natural forces, the divine forces, be it floods or be it earthquakes or the natural forces or divine forces. That is one thing. And also, the second one is achieving harmony at the Adi Bhautika level, where there is a certain good social situation around you so that no one harms you. Okay. And the third Shanti that we say in the prayer is for Adhyatmika. Even if there are no obstacles at the natural forces level, at the social level, we can become our own obstacle. Today, I don't feel like studying. Today, I don't feel like playing. Or today, I don't feel like going to school. Today, I don't feel like attending online classes. So it means that everything is cooperative. The internet is working fine. Your mother has prepared wonderful food, and there is no rain as such. Power is there, but still inside you don't feel today that you want to attend the online class. So it means your inner situation is not cooperative for that. So similarly, the illness can be classified as Adi Daivika, Adi Bhautika, and Adhyatmika. What is Adi Daivika? It is caused by natural forces. Like, for example, there is a lot of heat around us, or the temperature is quite chill. Say you go to the Himalayas, the temperature can be really low. And now it is December, so it's going to be in sub zero temperatures. Because of that particular temperature condition, there could be some issues with your health. Okay. Or it could be certain divine aspects, which I won't go into, but nevertheless, people who are trained in Ayurveda and also in Jyotisha, they can tell about certain aspects of the divine illnesses as well. The second type is Adi Bhautika, which is caused by other beings. For example, it can be caused by beings which are more powerful than us. Or it can be even because if you look at the COVID situation, it's caused by a virus. That is, the other Bhautika forces are actually creating the illness for you, though you may be actually fine, right? And the third one is Adhyatmika, means your own bodily composition. There is some kind of a misalignment that happens, which makes you ill. And hence, the health is looked at from this perspective. This is one way of classifying illness. So basically, if you talk about a life without illness, then it means you will need to insulate yourself from these factors or these changing factors. So no matter how hot or cold it is, Shita and Ushna it is, you should be able to maintain a certain harmony within yourself. And no matter what the external situation is in terms of viruses or bacteria or whatever, your immune system should be strong enough to withstand it. And your lifestyle should be in such a way that your doshas are balanced so that from internally you don't cause any illnesses. I hope this dimension is clear. So this is one way of looking at illness. And from the yogic perspective, if you see, you know, this is the entire body or the human system, not just the human system, any ecosystem in this universe can be looked at from the perspective of the kosha. Okay, you have Annamaya kosha, Pranamaya kosha, Manomaya kosha, Vijnanamaya kosha, and Anandamaya kosha. What is Annamaya kosha? This is a yogic way of looking at our system. What is Annamaya kosha? Annamaya kosha is the component in the body which is nourished by food. What is Pranamaya kosha? The component in the body that forms the energy system. The Manomaya kosha is basically all the thoughts that are there, all the emotions that we go through is the Manomaya kosha. The intellect, which basically gives direction to your thoughts, the wisdom that you have, is called Vijnanamaya kosha, where you're thinking about manifest reality, you're thinking about physics, you're thinking about chemistry, biology, you're doing logical reasoning, you're doing analytical thinking. All that is the Vijnanamaya kosha. And Anandamaya kosha is beyond all these koshas that gives you a certain calmness, happiness, and then a certain bliss. So let's take the example, of any life form. It has all these koshas, but each one could be expanded in different way. For example, if you take a plant, the Vijnanamaya kosha of a plant is very different from the Vijnanamaya kosha of the human system. We are able to learn how we are learning. We are able to observe the way we are learning. Whereas animals could probably are very intelligent, but do it more through instinct and intuition. Okay, so that can happen. So every system has this kosha. Even if you take a tube light, the glass is basically the annamaya kosha, which is the physical part of it. The electricity that is flowing is the pranamaya kosha, because that makes the bulb glow. However, they don't have a thinking process or whatever it is, and hence they don't have the other koshas. And so, in fact, now that I mentioned the koshas, this is what probably would differentiate an artificially intelligent system with a human system. So people will ask whether a computer can become a human being. Then, if you have to make a computer a human being, then you will have to build in all these koshas into it. It should have a annamaya kosha, it should have a pranamaya kosha, it should have a mind stuff, it should have an intellect, and it should also have the capacity to realize its atman. So then it means that the artificially intelligent system can actually become an intelligent system, can emulate or become like a human system. So as young people, as teenagers, what can you actually work upon now that you understand that illness is basically the imbalance of the doshas when you look at it from the ayurvedic perspective, or it can be some problems either with annamaya kosha or pranamaya kosha or manomaya kosha or vinyanamaya kosha. Basically annamaya kosha will be the physical dimension, manomaya kosha is the emotional dimension, vinyanamaya kosha is the what you can say, the cognitive dimension. And hence, if you look at it from a yogic perspective, any problem with any of these dimensions can be called as illness. And if you look at the WHO definition that we saw, it means that the mental, physical, emotional, all these dimensions, there should be well-being. If it is not there, it can be called illness. So now that we have an understanding of illness and what is it to be without illness, what is that we can work upon, right? So we can work upon, for example, and what solutions that I'm giving are in alignment with the traditional knowledge systems. You can always adopt, you can go to the gym, you can have a protein drink or whatever it is. But there are, of course, certain consequence to it. Of course, it will take a little more elaboration to differentiate these two systems. But what, in my own personal experience, I have seen that the Indian knowledge systems, especially Ayurveda, Siddha, Yoga, all these provide great possibilities of a holistic well-being approach. And that is why I'm giving these as solutions to the illnesses that can be commonly found. Okay. When you talk about the physical dimension, so this is what I'm going to talk about is more of a preventive approach and not a treatment or not a diagnostic procedure nor a treatment protocol. This is more of a preventive procedure where you as teenagers can focus on and then take it forward so that you have a healthy life going forward. For the physical dimension, you can pay attention to your food. You can pay attention to the activities that you do in terms of yogasana is one way. And you can integrate the principles that come from Ayurveda and Siddha into your daily lifestyle. You have in Ayurveda, they talk about dinacharya and ritucharya. Dinacharya means every day, what is the discipline that you can follow? Or charya means what is the process that you can follow, right? Or what is the way that you can follow. And Ritucharya is based on the seasons, what is the thing that you can follow. So integrating, having a knowledge about this will give you excellent health in the future. For the emotional dimension, again, I'm talking about the yogic practices to do with pranayama and dhyana. And cognitive aspects, pranayama, dharana, and chanting. So chanting is such a wonderful thing. In fact, at our ashram currently, what we're doing is that there is a akhanda chanting going on. For 48 days, there's at least one person who's sitting in the dhyanalayam and continuously chanting the mantras. So it means that 24 bar 7 for 48 days, this chanting is going on. And so look at the shining intelligence that the people will get, by just going through this process of chanting. I'll show you how. Okay. And so for the spiritual dimension, all these become important. Paying attention to your food, yogic practices, Ayurvedic and Siddha knowledge, all these become important to take care of your spiritual health. So, since I spoke about this dimension called food, what can we, what principles are applicable over here? Okay. So, food is a very, very important aspect of our life. And since the Annamaya Kosha, that is the body, is very much dependent on food, you need to pay attention to the food that you eat. And what happens is you eat food, it then passes through the esophagus, goes to the stomach region. There is the process of digestion, acids are secreted, digestion happens, and then the essence of that food basically enters the bloodstream, and then it is passed on to the other organs, other parts of the body. So, as energy, or as it is passed on as energy or nutrients or whatever it is. And it is said that depending on the robustness of your digestive system, the amount of nutrients that are absorbed from the food can be enhanced. Otherwise, whatever you eat just goes as waste. And hence, paying attention to the quantity of food and the quality of food both become important. Okay. So, too little food or too much food, both can become toxic or both can become problematic. So, you'll have to identify the best quantity and the best quality of food that is suitable to you and suitable to the lifestyle that you are leading. So you are a student. What is it? What is a student called in Sanskrit or in Hindi? It is called Vidyarthi. What is Vidyarthi? The person for whom Vidya gives meaning, or Vidya is wealth. That is a student. So the primary objective of a Vidyarthi's life or primary activity in a Vidyarthi's life is basically studying. When I say studying, don't worry, it's not like, just history books or whatever it is. It is basically engaging yourself in the pursuit of knowledge. So if you have to engage yourself in the pursuit of knowledge, it means that you'll have to be awake and alert. So choosing a lifestyle which makes you awake and alert is very, very important. And hence paying attention to the food is important. So, commonly what have you seen that people say, oh, it is after lunchtime, I'm feeling sleepy. That's a very, very common thing that we see around. But is it normal? No, definitely not. Food should, in fact, nourish you and not put you to sleep. And hence, paying attention to the food is very important. So, the Bhagavad Gita talks so much about food. I think chapter 17, so many things about food are actually mentioned. So let's look at what the Bhagavad Gita talks about it. I'm just going to read one verse. The remaining, of course, the translation is available. आयुस्सत्त्वबलारोग्य सुखप्रीतिविवर्धनाः रस्या स्निग्धा स्थिरा हृद्या आहारा सात्विकप्रियाः. Persons in the mode of goodness, that is sattvic people, prefer food that promote increase in the lifespan, increase in virtue, increase in strength, health, happiness, and satisfaction. So basically, juicy and succulent foods which are nourishing and tastefully, naturally tasteful, those are the foods that are sattvic. So basically, it should enhance your energy quotient. You should feel satisfied and happy after eating the food. You should feel energetic after eating the food to pursue whatever you want to do, not put you to sleep. So basically, what is juicy and succulent? So you can take fruits, for example, are juicy and succulent. There are some vegetables which are juicy and succulent. So these basically are very sattvic in nature. And similarly, Bhagavan Sri Krishna also classifies the other types of foods. He says that foods that are too bitter, sour, salty, pungent, dry, and full of chili are people who are rajasic in nature. Rajasic means it gives you a lot of active energy. It gives you a lot of aggressive energy. But at the same time, it produces a lot of pain and grief because all of a sudden there is a surge in energy and all of a sudden there is a dip in energy, right? And hence, it is better to avoid food that is too bitter or too sour or too salty or too full of chili. right? But it sounds very strange and very different from what food that we are normally exposed to when we go out and eat. But the best path is that to ask your mother or ask your grandmother, right? And then they would give you the ideas to prepare food tastily, at the same time preserve the qualities of the food. And what Bhagwan Krishna talks is that food that is overcooked, stale, polluted, and impure is for people who are tamasic in nature. So if you eat food that is overcooked, there are, you can also look at the energy efficiency of food. Like fresh foods, for example, don't consume any energy. Like you don't have to cook because you don't use any gas stove or whatever it is. Food that you just boil and have it, it means only little amount of fuel is used. But food that you put in oil, you bake it, you fry it, you do a lot of things, it means that a lot of fuel is used in just preparing that small quantity of food. Then it becomes, the nutrients all the more die in that food. So this does not mean that you should be averse to any kind of food from outside, but having a healthy mix of all these foods can really ensure good health, right? So what we follow at our ashram is, morning we have a multi-millet drink, which is like a kanji. And in the afternoon, around 11 o'clock, we have our lunch, which is basically, the South Indian lunch that we have with rice and vegetables. Simple, okay? No, it's not spicy. It's just about the right amount of salt is there. And in the evening, we have some snack that is optional. And most of us actually skip dinner. Even the young ones, my children, when they live at the ashram, they have an early dinner around say 7 o'clock or so, and then so that there is enough time between having dinner and going to bed. That ensures good health. And in fact, that is the importance of vrata. In fact, there was a Nobel Prize that was given to autophagy. I think in 2017 or so. I don't remember the year. What It's basically the process where the cells eat themselves. So it is said that when there is absence of food, that is when we take up a vrata or we take vratam, or I don't know in Hindi. I think vrata is in Hindi as well. So what happens is that the glucagon levels go up, which stimulates the process of autophagy, and hence the old cells start dying, right? Uh, Excuse just a second. I don't know why, but my screen share just stopped.
Ma'am, we are able to see your screen, but uh,
Yeah, are you able to see now?
yes, ma'am. I
Okay,
think the it just got signed out, but we are able to see the screen. Now I'm not able to.
just a second. I'll just sign in.
Yes,
I don't know why this happened suddenly.
no problem. We do have a few
Okay,
questions also.
good. It's almost done. Okay, it's quite strange why this is happening. So what I wanted to also share is that it's okay if the slides are not working. I can leave the slides with the organizers, and you see that the process starts where the cells start eating themselves. So basically, what happens is the cellular rejuvenation starts happening when one follows some kind of niyama or vratas. Simple things, okay? As teenagers, I don't recommend that you do a long fasting, but if you can bring some simple changes to your eating patterns where you have good amount of gap between two meals, then I feel that you can be alert, awake, to be available to the process of learning. Similarly, I had told about yoga asanas and chanting. So yogic practices, there are a lot of scientific evidences that talk about the efficacy of yoga practices, both asana, pranayama, and dhyana, or in fact dharana practices, which help you to increase the attention, focus, and in fact memory. There are a lot of scientific studies that actually give evidence that people who practice dharana for good amount of time, their attention and focus has increased multifold. And there is another beautiful study which is called the Sanskrit neuroscience effect, which talks about they had done the scan of brain scan of pandits, and they observed that there is an increase in the capability, verbal intelligence of the pandits, and the ability to memorize, and also their capability to hold a lot of information. So basically, memory is increased, verbal intelligence is increased, and their cognitive capabilities is also enhanced by just engaging in the process of chanting Sanskrit verses. And hence engaging every day some form of chanting in Sanskrit or Tamil or whatever you have in your own native language, that will really help you to enhance your cognitive capabilities as children. For example, at the ashram, every day we have Bhagavad Gita chanting. We also have other verses that we chant. So, some form of chanting, for example, I also offer a chant along program where a lot of people learn to chant online. So, that is one way of increasing your verbal intelligence, because those Sanskrit terms you learn to pronounce it, and that enhances your cognitive capabilities. So the Indian way of life has so many solutions to take care of your health in terms of the physical, emotional, and cognitive dimensions. So definitely make use of it. And of course, the Center for Soft Power, AVP Research Foundation, I know some of them from AVP closely, and I had deep respect for Padma Shri Krishna Kumar ji as well. And of course, iGen Plus is doing a fantastic job of bringing all these knowledge systems to the young people. So definitely make use of all these forums and gain as much as knowledge as possible. Even if it is intellectual at this point in time, at some point in time, it will become practical for you. So best wishes to all of you. And now let me look at the questions. Okay.
Thank you so much, Smriti ma'am, for taking us through that presentation and giving us so many tips that we can all keep into account. Should I read the questions to you, ma'am?
The questions. Okay.
We have a question from Veena ji. Do these koshas relate to the type of treatment that will be given?
Yeah, definitely. So there is now, yoga therapy is actually quite a significant field where a lot of yoga therapists are emerging and systematically trained in the process. So definitely the treatment protocols will differ, because when if it is to do with just the body, the treatment will be different. It could just be to do with asanas. But if it is psychosomatic in nature, then it means it has to have a little more level of healing has to happen. So basically, definitely the protocols will be different when the illness is at the different koshas.
Okay. Next, we have from Dr. Kamal, difference between herbal and patent proprietary Ayurvedic medicine.
Uh, no, I'm exactly not an Ayurvedic doctor as such. So maybe if there's somebody, they can answer. But maybe there is, herbal is basically, sourcing the herb. I mean, I'm not sure about this. Yeah.
We have
But
next
I
question.
know is that each organization, they will need to get approvals to manufacture certain drugs, and then they have their own compositions of making those drugs. And once they get the approval, they manufacture it according to the insights that emerge from their own research and yeah, drug research basically.
We have another question, ma'am. How can people learn if they come from families that don't pass down the knowledge or who have forgotten, especially because of moving abroad?
See, that is a challenge that I would say that the young generation is facing. So engaging in some form of, now right now, a lot of these knowledge systems, at least some of this is available online as well. So maybe you can register for some courses. Maybe iGen Plus itself has a few courses on this. And one thing that I would definitely recommend is, exploring options of taking this up as a higher education option. Taking up, say, for example, BAMS instead of the regular MBBS, you can explore this particular option. And I know a few people who are also doing, Indian mathematics and Indian astronomy, for example. So that is also one possibility where you take higher education. Your schooling can be okay. Now you're already teenagers, maybe you can continue in the schooling system, but nevertheless, you can explore higher education options. You can take up even yoga, you can take up Sanskrit. I would definitely recommend at least some of you to do that. Take up, say, a BA in Sanskrit, then later on you can do that, or you can take a BAMS, you can take Ayurveda as a field of study, you can take Siddha as a field of study, you can take even yoga as a field of study. So all these knowledge systems, or you can take Indian mathematics and astronomy. So all these are available as knowledge systems in diverse forms throughout India. So if you get an appropriate guru, appropriate teacher, appropriate guide, I think this can be worked out. In fact, we are starting a Gurukulam, Dharma Gurukulam, in July, where some a lot of these knowledge systems will be available to children who are above the age of 10.
Right. In fact, we also have, like, our last session today is about the career options that you can
Yes.
look for specifically around Ayurveda. So you can all stick around for that. Ma'am, the next question we have is that how can Ayurveda help sports persons if they have injuries? Can that help them in getting recovered from those injuries?
In fact, especially for injuries, Ayurveda is quite good. I know a lot of people who have taken to Ayurvedic medicine, not just medicine, the treatment protocol, because Ayurveda is not just about consuming some pills, but changing a certain lifestyle routine itself, where they get exposed to different treatment protocols in terms of, applying some oils, doing some massages there, and also having some implements to keep their muscles together. All that works definitely fine. And recently we heard that the first Ayurvedic surgery was performed, where the person was not given antibiotics but was given Ayurvedic medicine instead of antibiotic. So I think a lot of things are evolving. Maybe somebody in the Ayurvedic fraternity will be able to answer this question better.
Also, ma'am, another question from Kodru Venkatananda is which type of food is more helpful, sattvic or tamasic, to avoid illness, or does fasting help? Is it better to do fasting?
So I'm not sure about the age of the person. If you're a teenager, I wouldn't recommend fasting so much. But I would rather help you to explore food that is sattvic in nature. As I told you, for a student, sattvic ahar is very important. Aharam that gives you energy is very important. And so sattvic ahar, by you can have a good blend of say fresh foods, foods that are not so much masaledar as such. I know I'm giving you wrong ideas, but nevertheless, when I cook for my own sons, that is what I blend. It should be tasty, agreed, but at the same time, if it is full of masala, I see that the children tend to fall asleep. So occasionally having those components helps, but if it is every day, if it is given, then it can make the system quite numb and dull. So I would suggest you have a good blend of fresh food. You have, this soaked grains, what do you call it, sprouts.
Right.
Sprouts also don't have it just like that. Have a little bit of salt and pepper or a little bit of nimbu so that the doshas get balanced.
Right.
Otherwise, if you just have the sprouts, then vata can be aggravated because or you can feel certain gas and flatulence. So mix
Right.
some kind of spices in the sprouts and then you can have it. So
Okay.
this is something that we follow. Of course, each person, each house has a different
Right.
way of approaching it. So I think the best would be to check with your grandmother, as I told you.
Right. I think we'll just take maybe one or two more questions. Alpana ji is asking, is it possible to experience the Panchakoshas?
Experience, I mean, the Panchakosha is a way of looking at the system, right? It's not about experiencing, but it's a way of looking at the system, classifying the components of the system. In fact, a couple of months ago, I did a program called Panchakosha Yoga, which is basically experientially working on these different dimensions, working on your diet, working on your emotional content, working on the intelligent component that you go through, and then, of course, Anandamaya Kosha. So it is a way of is possible to experience it in a certain way, but it's actually a way of looking at the entire system.
And the last question we will take is Veena ma'am says that it was a very nice session. She's in the UK where there's an increase in depression, mental health problems, and memory. Would you say that changing food and then lifestyle could be a major way of improving the health?
Definitely. Off late we've had a few people visiting us, in the past, who have specifically spoken about their own conditions of, say, depression or some kind of health issues to do with the mind. And we found that just staying in the ashram for some time, following a simple routine, at least for a few weeks, say about 21 days, we found that their entire system starts healing. And so I feel that the lifestyle can definitely have an improvement on the mental health. Of course, when the mental health is extreme, you'll have to take therapeutic measures accordingly. But if you observe some changes in the mental health of people, so putting them on a simple lifestyle, keeping them happy, talking to them, sharing the emotions, all that can make a huge difference in actually healing them. So that is where we found that yogic practices blended with Ayurvedic principles really help a person.
Thank you so much, ma'am, and thank you all the participants for the questions. Thank you again, Smriti ma'am, for taking us through the entire presentation and for your inputs, for taking up time with us. We will now play a short film for the participants. After that, we'll proceed to our next session, which is on everyday practices in Ayurveda. So right now, we'll play a short film, which is titled Vaidya Grama. We bring to you the eco-friendly Ayurveda village Vaidyagrama and Punarnava Ayurveda Trust that is on a global mission. So you'll experience how the vision of live simple, live well, live healthy, live happy is a positive path of living here in this village.
Vaidyagrama means a healing a village that offers authentic Ayurveda treatment. It is a space that is green, environment friendly, a space that follows the principles of Ayurveda and Vastu Shastra. Vaidyagrama follows the principles of an ideal Ayurveda center as prescribed in the classical Ayurveda texts. The commitment is to create a truly natural Ayurveda hospital that is based on the textual dictates and yet that suits contemporary times. The spaces allotted for each specific place for healing, the materials used for construction, the landscaping, and even the vegetation are all for an Ayurveda reason, a good reason for the healing process to be complete. It is the effort of the team to create and maintain the being of Vaidyagrama maximum in an eco-friendly manner. 5 acres of barren land were purchased in the year 2008. Immediately upon purchase, 6 recharge wells were made in the land, which helped improve the groundwater table. Mud blocks were made from soil excavated from the same place. They were handmade and sun-dried. This helped give jobs to local villagers for an extended period of time. Vaidyagrama means a healing village, an assemblage of Ayurveda Vaidyas sharing a common vision of authentic Ayurveda for universal well-being. This is also a learning facility, an ashram, a temple of healing, and is being led by Dr. Ram Kumar and team of doctors. A typical day at Vaidyagrama starts at sunrise with Agnihotra being performed, followed by prayer. This is attended by staff and patients. In the evening at sunset also, Agnihotra and prayer is conducted. Patients from all over the world come to Vaidyagrama for their healing.
glad that I've come to Vaidyagram. It's such an integrated, holistic center. The caretakers here have not missed out anything for oneself to get healed. I've come here for 20 days. I've been here and tomorrow is my last day. I'd come with a lot of pain on my left side. I believe in Ayurveda, and when I've come and now I'm leaving, like all my pains have subsided and I feel totally cleansed and healed properly. And it's the best thing. You have a routine here, lot of caretakers, helpers, and with lot of warmth people treat you. I think that itself helps people for healing faster. And thank you very much. Yes.
Every day at 2 p.m., Yoga Nidra is conducted, which is followed by satsangs where Ayurveda knowledge is shared. Once every week, a group lunch is organized for the patients, which is followed by entertainment program. Cow Puja is performed every Friday. Besides this, cooking class, gardening walk, kashayam making class, etc. are conducted every week. Tree plantation is done by all the patients the day before their departure, which has resulted in the once barren land to be converted to a young forest of medicinal plants. In the kitchen, Sattvic food is prepared and biomass briquettes are used as fuel. Cooking food in yellow flame is considered healthy, which was the practice in our olden days. Washing clothes at Vaidyagrama is done using soap nuts. These soap nuts are soaked overnight in water, and in the morning the seeds are removed and are tied in a cloth and are put in the washing machine. Vaidyagrama also has extended its medical services and support to the underprivileged villagers through their non-profit Punarnava Ayurveda Trust, which is associated with Vaidyagrama and the parent company Punarnava Ayurveda Limited. The vision of Punarnava Ayurveda Trust is to create a sustainable community based on the principles of Ayurveda and natural farming. Towards this, medical camps are conducted every month and daily free Ayurveda clinic in Rotikandanur village is kept open from 5 pm to 7 pm on all the days for the benefit of the villagers. Along with the camp, a community lunch is also arranged for all the villagers. The elderly villages in Tirumalayampalayam Panchayat needed continuous support. Project Annam caters to 150 elderly abandoned villagers since 2015. Elders also needed care for their eyes. Collaborating with Arvind Eye Hospital, eye camps are conducted twice a year in different villages.
என் பேர் அஸ்வின் ராஜ். நான் வந்துட்டு இப்போ 10th ஸ்டாண்டர்ட் படிக்கிறேன். பாலகிராமத்தில் ஒரு ஸ்டூடெண்ட்டாக இருக்கேன். நான் ஃபஸ்ட்டு வந்துட்டு இங்கே 6th ஸ்டாண்டர்டில் இங்கே வந்தப்போ வந்துட்டு எனக்கு அவ்வளோவா வந்துட்டு இங்கிலீஷ் அது வராது. இங்கிலீஷ் மேக்ஸும் சுத்தமாக வராது. அப்போ வந்துட்டு இங்கிலீஷ் வந்துட்டு இங்கே சந்தியாக்கா வந்துடுவாங்க. அவங்க வந்துட்டு சொல்லித் தருவாங்க. மேக்ஸ் நல்லா சொல்லித் தருவாங்க. அப்போ நான் அந்த மாதிரி தான் அவங்கள்ட்ட படித்து இங்கே டெய்லி டியூஷன் வராங்க. இப்போ இந்த கோவிட் இதில் கூட இங்கே தான் வந்து எங்களுக்கு சொல்லித் தருவாங்க மேக்ஸ் அதெல்லாம். இப்போ மற்ற பசங்க எங்கேயும் வீட்டில் படிக்கிறாங்களா என்னன்னு தெரியாது. ஆனால் நாங்கள் வந்து டெய்லியும் படிக்கிறோம். அதனால் நல்லா ஸ்கோர் பண்ணுவோம் அப்படின்னு அவ்வளோதான்.
Balagrama is home to boys from troubled homes from the villages nearby Vaidyagrama. The boys are taught Sanskrit, yoga, kalari, the martial art form of Kerala, along with their studies in the government school nearby. These boys are getting trained to be future leaders of our community. During summer holidays, a summer camp is organized for boys and girls from the villages. They are trained in our culture, yoga, art, craft, natural farming, Sanskrit, Ayurveda, and values of life and living. Punarnava Trust also conducts international Ayurveda conferences every few years. The last international conference of 1 week was held in 2015 at Vaidyagrama, which was attended by 650 delegates from all over the world. Moving in the direction of sustainability, Punarnava is protecting indigenous cows through Lakshmi Grama, which is home for 40 cows and bulls. Ghee and buttermilk for Vaidyagrama is made at Lakshmi Grama. Cow dung is used for making dhoop sticks for warding off mosquitoes. Jeevamritam, which is a biofertilizer, is used in natural farming at Vaidyagrama. Holy ash is prepared from fresh cow dung, which is used in house. Towards empowering women, eco-friendly biodegradable sanitary pads are made by women for women. 150 girls from nearby government schools receive free sanitary pads every month from Punarnava Ayurveda Trust. Land protection for agroforestry, sustainable organic farming, fodder cultivation, etc. are undertaken here. Karshaka Grama, or farmer's village, is a soon to be realized dream of Punarnava.
എൻ്റെ പേര് ചെമ്പുവാണ്. ഞാൻ ഹൗസ് കീപ്പിംഗായി വർക്ക് ചെയ്യുന്നു ഇവിടെ വൈദ്യഗ്രാമത്തിൽ. 2014 ഇവിടെ വന്ന് വർക്ക് ചെയ്യാൻ തുടങ്ങിയത്. പക്ഷേ അതിൻ്റെ മുമ്പിട്ട് ഞാൻ എവിടെയും വർക്ക് ചെയ്യാൻ പോയിട്ടില്ല. എൻ്റെ മക്കളെ പഠിപ്പിക്കാൻ ഇവിടെ വന്നിരിക്കുമ്പോൾ രണ്ടുപേരും സ്കൂളിൽ പഠിക്കുമായിരുന്നു. അപ്പോൾ ഞാൻ എന്ത് ചെയ്യണമെന്ന് അറിയാത്ത സമയത്തിലാണ് ഇവിടെ വന്നത്. വന്ന് ജോലി ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ ഇവിടെ എല്ലാവരും സഹോദരി പോലെ പഴകിയപ്പോൾ അതന്നെ എനിക്ക് ഇഷ്ടപ്പെട്ടു. ഇവിടെ വന്ന് ഓരോരോ ജോലികളും പഠിച്ച് വൈദ്യഗ്രാമത്തിൻ്റെ നിയമം പോലെ തന്നെ ഞങ്ങളുടെ ജീവിതത്തിൽ നല്ലൊരു എൻ്റെ വീട് പോലെയാണ് ഇവിടെ. എല്ലാവരും ചിരിക്കും, കണ്ട ആദ്യം ചിരിച്ചിട്ടാണ് സംസാരിക്കുക. അതാണ് എനിക്ക് നന്നായി ഇഷ്ടപ്പെട്ടത് തന്നെ. പിന്നെ ഒരു പേടിയില്ല, ഉള്ളിൽ വന്നാൽ നമ്മുടെ വർക്ക് നല്ല സേഫ്റ്റിയാണ് ഇവിടെ. അതുകൊണ്ട് എൻ്റെ കുടുംബം പോലെ തന്നെ ഇപ്പം ഇവിടെ.
We thank the global community for supporting the local community in making this earth a better place to live. We invite each one of you to visit Vaidyagrama and experience the Vaidyagrama way of living and help us spread this message of inclusiveness across the globe. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Koti sir, for sharing that. That indeed was a very good video looking at the lives, the simple lives that people are living there, and definitely very inviting. I hope all of you also liked the video and you would sometime visit Vaidyagrama. Next up, our session today is titled Everyday Practices from Ayurveda, where we have with us Dr. Rishi Manivanan. Dr. Rishi has studied at a Siddha Gurukula for a period of 3 years after completing formal Ayurveda graduation under Vasi Yogi Arjunan, 48th Guru Sri Putru Maharshi lineage, and studied Vasi, Nadi, pulse diagnosis, Varma, Tantra, metallurgy, herbology, Silambam, Jyotisha, Meni Adi, and Vastu. He has studied Ayurveda and Tantra under the guidance of P.R. Krishna Kumar for a period of 5 years. Later, he also studied acupuncture, Tai Chi, and Sowa Rigpa under Dr. Tenzin Thai, who is a visiting physician for His Holiness Dalai Lama. Primarily driven to improve the condition of agriculture and animal care and those who economically sustain on it through the branched sciences of Raksha Ayurveda and Pasu Ayurveda due to a predisposed genetic familial trait of being associated with cultivation and farming since generations. Currently, Dr. Rishi is working on documenting traditional practices and knowledge systems and making it practically viable as a model of sustainable development. Namaste, Dr. Rishi. Thank you so much for taking out time and joining us.
Namaste. Thank you for having me on this forum.
I hand it over to you here for the session.
Thank you. So, namaste, everyone. And so today's topic is, of course, everyday practices of Ayurveda. And so to give us an understanding of, before I go into the topic of practices, the everyday practices that's involved in the field of Ayurveda, I'd like to give an understanding about what Ayurveda itself is. Because we have this prefix notion whenever we hear the word Ayurveda. We think of herbs. The first thing that comes to our mind is a picture of plants, trees, and herbs as such. But Ayurveda is much more. It's beyond it. Ayurveda isn't just a substance, or it's not just plants or herbs. It's not limited to it, but it's a science rather. And so when you call anything a science, you're talking about something which has a logic and which has a sequence behind how it works that explains how things work. And in fact, that's what drove me to study the science. It was a curiosity. When you hear the word vata, pitta, and kapha, again, the translation of it says wind, mucus, and bile, but it's again much more than that. These three words that forms the basis or the fundamental foundation of the entire science of Ayurveda, which is vata, pitta, and kapha. It talks and it speaks about how this universe works, how the universe works, how the earth functions, and how we human beings who reside in this earth and within the larger universe function according to the same principles or the same laws. So what this vata, pitta, kapha essentially means is that when you take any action, you have a beginning to it, you have a continuation, and you have an end. So anything in this world that has to survive, whether it's living or even non-living, it has only these three steps or these three stages. And this is what we call as vata, pitta, and kapha. So you have, say, you take a day as such, and when we see a day, you have the sunrise, you have the midday, and you have the sunset. And even with the human life, you have the birth, then you have the middle age, and you have, you grow old, you decay, and there's the death. So everything in this universe falls under these three basic principles of the three doshas. And what these three doshas essentially talk of is the three phases or the three stages through which everything works in this universe. And we as human beings, we have lost this connection or this understanding between how we function and how the universe around us functions similarly. And so this is attributed, this is primarily where the education system has been changed, and it plays a major influence upon our ideologies. So our Indian system of understanding or of education, it was holistic. And when we speak of something that's holistic, the word holistic it's a common word that's used everywhere now: holistic medicine, holistic science. But what we actually mean by holistic is that there is no aspect of your life that is ignored. And this is what Ayurveda actually speaks of. So when you see the word Ayurveda, it's the science of life. And what is life? Life is anything that's functioning and that has a dynamic to it. And so it essentially speaks about everything that functions in this universe. It speaks about how the universe works. It speaks about every object that's present in this universe functions. So this is what Ayurveda essentially is. That tells you how you function in tune with the outer world, with the cosmos around you. And that's what it tries to establish again. And this is where we, as the human species, we have deterred, and we face a lot of when we take the word disease, we always think that disease is something that's very serious. We always think that disease is only when you're bedridden, you're completely ill, you can't move. But when you break the word disease, it's dis and ease. Any sort of uneasiness is disease. So it doesn't mean that you have to be bedridden or you have to be you need a broken leg. This is not disease. It doesn't have to be that serious. And this uneasiness that we speak of in the terms of disease, it includes every single change in our emotion and how we respond to any event or our external environment. So as we all know, we humans are very irritable. We get irritated, we get upset, and then if we have a good, even if it's a small reason, we get very happy, but it's the same happiness that causes us sorrow later. So we are very sensitive. to any environmental stimulus around us. So this understanding of how the body, the mind, and the soul, all three of this work in accordance with the outer dynamics is what Ayurveda tries to establish. And so when you look at Ayurveda, it's not, like I mentioned, it's not just herbs that we speak of, it's a science. So when this science, and when we speak about making it holistic, it includes a lot of other sciences under it. So Ayurveda is not just a science of curing the disease, but it's all about preventing disease. And what is the purpose of preventing disease? Is primarily to ensure that it's only when you're healthy can you also be productive in your work. You can be creative and productive. And the second part is that with an established health, it's only then when you do not have any uneasiness of this body that you are able to realize how you are connected to the outer cosmos or the environmental factors around you, how you and the universe function in tune in one dynamic. So under this broad spectrum of Ayurveda, which is not just limited to herbs or treatment, you have music, you have dance, you have martial arts, then you have Vastu, you have Jyotisha, then you have care of plants, which is Vriksha Ayurveda, the care of animals, because it's only when you have your environment or the ecology around you protected, can you also sustain as a species in a state of health. So it's only when you take care of the plants, the trees, the animals, and the entire ecosystem around that you can also sustain, because we, in essence, we sustain and we are interdependent upon all these other products around us of nature. And so along with this, when you study the sciences of yoga, martial arts, which is Kalari, Silambam, and then you have Natya Shastra. So when you study these sciences that speak about, and they don't just speak, but they make you or help you realize how the dynamics within your body is in tune with that of the world around you. And this is a senses. So when you see this, these three sciences, yoga, Kalari, and dance, Natya Shastra, it's based upon one simple principle of the Ida and the Pingala. So you have two channels in the body. And these two channels that we speak of, it's not just physical channels. It speaks about inner dynamics, deeper dynamics of energy. So we speak about the sun and we speak about the moon. So you have the hot and you have the cold. You have the presence of energy and the absence of energy. So it is all these sciences, what they try to establish in your body is a balance of energy. And this balanced state of energy leads to a balanced state of functioning between the starting, the continuation, and the termination of any act, which is Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. So all these sciences that we have, the Indian sciences, the native traditional sciences, all of them constitute Ayurveda together. Because it's only when you have this preventive aspect of life can you also realize and attain the state of bliss, which is basically happiness, a sense of satisfaction. Because that's what we as a generation are facing as the biggest problem right now, dissatisfaction. And rightly so, the great scientist Vagbhatacharya, he mentions that the cause of all diseases, the primary cause of any disease is raga. So he uses the word ragadi rogan. So what this word raga means is that it's a very beautiful word. It has many dimensions of understanding. Is that raga primarily means passion. And so when you look at passion, it's a state of emotion of the mind. And a deeper meaning that this has is that the same word raga means the colors or colors of the mind. So when we speak about color, we are talking about vibration, energy. And so it is this imbalance of energy that Ayurveda tries to bring a balance to. And the mind is equated to nothing but the state of this energy, an imbalance of this energy. Either an excited state or a low state of energy is considered as an imbalance. So when we look at what the everyday practices would be, so I'm not limiting things to just the Ayurvedic aspect, but I'm going to give an understanding about this holistic aspect that we're speaking of in terms of healing the body, the mind, and the soul. So when you look at the body, it's the physical body, that we're speaking of, keeping the physical body nourished and keeping it in a state of balanced functioning. And for this, Ayurveda primarily tells you how to keep your biorhythm or your body's clock in tune with the clock of the world around. So how do you function in tune from sunrise to sunset? Because interestingly, even the human body functions similarly, because we say that the metabolism of the body, the circulation of the body, it's in tune with that of the sunrise. So it is only when the sun rays fall upon our skin that we receive the heat energy, and this heat energy generates and it stimulates the functions within the body. That's when the inner dynamics, they begin to function, they get stimulated. So the primary point that Ayurveda emphasizes on is waking up at Brahma Muhurta. So waking up at Brahma Muhurta is the time when you have the right vibration or the right wavelength that wakes the body and stimulates the body, and then it helps you carry on your day with a balanced state of energy. You don't feel dull, neither do you feel too excited or restless. And in this manner, it tells you a set of practices that are to be followed through the course of the day. How to brush and when to have bath. It gives you a sequence of how to follow this. How to have bath and how to simple practices. And how do you perform exercise? And because you have regulations for each of these practices. And next, you have a set of practices which are prescribed, which are meant to keep the body in tune with the seasonal changes. Because as you know, the earth keeps revolving, and as it revolves, the temperature varies at each point. And so this is why we have the summer and the winter and the fluctuations in between. And when you have these change in phases in the external environment, the body is sensitive to these. Because we, as human beings, we are not independent of what is happening around us. Our body is influenced by what happens around us, and it functions so accordingly. So when it's cold outside, your body tries to compensate for that cold by generating heat within. So that's why we feel more hungry in the winter. We feel more thirsty during the summers. So there are all these small sciences and small changes that take place in the body. And Ayurveda gives us a prescribed manner of how to follow and what to follow during each of these times in order to keep your body in a state of balance and to ensure that your body is not harmed or it's not sensitive to the changes that are taking place around us. So these are what we call as the Dinacharya and the Ritucharya practices from Ayurveda. And when we look at the other sciences, these parallel sciences, the allied sciences, the Indian sciences that also talk about different modes and aspects of healing. Interestingly, we have a practice that's related to music. And so I can maybe give you a little detail on how each of these sciences, they connect with the human body and they speak of the human body essentially. So when you look at music, so you have the Saptaswaras, the 7 tones of music. And how are these related with the human body? Is that these 7 swaras or the 7 tones, they have an influence upon the 7 chakras of the body. And these 7 chakras, again, these are not imaginary concepts, though they're symbolic. But what the chakras essentially symbolize is that, it's like how, say that I have a wire that's passing through that's carrying current. Now, if many wires pass through a particular spot, then the current reading, the voltage current reading from that spot would be more, it would be higher. And these are basically your chakras, which are basically concentrated energy junctions in the body. So these are again equated with the endocrine glands, because it's only with electrical stimulation or energy stimulation do the glands actually secrete the hormones and enzymes. So the music, the science of music that was designed based upon the Carnatic music and the Hindustani music, these notes and the tones and the ragas have been designed in such a manner to create changes within the body. And in South India, there has been an interesting practice where in the temples, they would have a set raga that is played at a specific time of the day. So when you look at the dosha chart or the bio clock of the human body, you would notice that these music ragas which are played during each time of the day, they somehow do manage to neutralize the ill effect of that particular time period. So if it's too hot, the music that played would calm the mind, it would relax the mind, it would bring a sense of chillness to the mind. So in this manner, there are different ragas that were played. And when we talk about music in a preventive mode of healing, so studying music or even listening to music, when it's talk of studying, it's practicing it yourself. These act as a means of one healing and also helping one realize that whatever we study as science or whatever we study about this world around us is nothing but the same as what's happening within us. And this establishes a sense of satisfaction again, like mentioned earlier. It brings us, and this is what has always been called or termed as state of bliss. This understanding that what's happening around me is happening within me, and thus I am one with the universe around. And all the other sciences again. So you have dance, and then so for dance and martial arts and yoga, so these three are three different modes of approaching the same physical body. And because when Ayurveda speaks about the daily regimen, it talks about exercise. Now there is this concept of creating an individualization or a personalization in Ayurveda for each person or an individual. And when we speak of this, and when you say exercise, you need to think about individualized exercises for each person. You can't prescribe the same form of, you can't approach everyone in the same manner. So one person might be more restless, so he needs to divert his energy in a different manner. Another person would like to express it in a creative manner, or another person might take it in a more spiritual manner. So for this, you have three different modes of approaching the human body again and balancing the energy and the doshas, which is the martial arts, you have Bharatanatyam, and you have yoga. So these, again, they form the basis of individualized everyday practices when we speak of Ayurveda. And so like this, you have different sciences. So I've mentioned about music, I mentioned about martial arts, yoga, and Nari Shastra. And other than this, when we speak about the Vastu and Jyotisha, this interestingly has a profound impact upon the wellness of the body. So when we speak about Vastu and Jyotisha, Vastu speaks about how the geometry of the universe corresponds with the geometry of the human body. And this understanding again establishes a sense of connection. And if you look at how, it's nothing but the earth, the position of the earth, the revolving of the earth, it's influenced by the larger electromagnetic force that's around it. And the sun has a major role to play upon the climatics and the temperature fluctuations and the changes that take place on Earth. So similarly, just as how the Earth is influenced by this temperature change, similarly the body, the human body, which is residing on the same Earth, is also influenced accordingly. And this is what the science of Vastu Shastra talks of, the magnetic forces and about how the sun influences. So there are these aspects again which come into the preventive mode of healing, or this holistic understanding of how to maintain our health and how to prevent diseases and how to attain a state of higher energy. And so what we are doing currently is that we have this project known as CHEST. The short form is CHEST, and its abbreviation is Center for Health Enhancement, Sustenance, and Systematization. So what we're trying to essentially do is that we're trying to bring in this holistic understanding of what life itself is, and about how each and every aspect of life itself plays a major role in the healing of the body, the mind, and the soul. And so this project was, in fact, it was envisioned by Padma Shri P.R. Krishnamarji. And because he always saw that, he always saw this, what do we say, like he never felt like the new generation that was coming up had the sense of satisfaction that he felt like the sciences were dying out, and along with a change in social aspect, social life of the new generation. And so he would always attribute this this turmoil and distemper present currently in the social life, to the mode of upbringing, the mode of life itself that the person is exposed to. And so this is what that I'm trying to speak of, is that Ayurveda is not just about curing diseases of the body or illnesses of the body. It talks about the smallest change that takes place in the mind and how this brings about uh, turnover in changes and in the body in later course of time. So that's what sloka which says Ragadi Rogan explains, that all diseases which are somatic or of the bodily origin primarily begin or originate from the mind. So if you have any questions, I think we can just.
Am I audible so now?
Yeah.
Sorry, it got disconnected.
Yes.
So we did have a question from Veena ji. She says, thank you, Dr. Rishi, for sharing such valuable knowledge. Being in the UK, we are in a relatively cold and damp country and relatively little sun and lesser green areas. So, what can we do to live in an Ayurvedic lifestyle?
That's a good question, because now when we talk about the textual aspect of Ayurveda, it tells us the climatics of the Indian ecosystem. And when we speak of the UK, because now Ayurveda it's a science of principles, not substances or facts alone. So these are principles that can be adopted or adapted to each place if you understand the basis. So this is why Ayurveda is not just limited to herbs, but beyond it, when we come to mantras, when we come to energy, when we come to yoga, pranayama. So when you look at the climatic situation in UK, it's usually dark and gloomy. And in fact, there's a joke that the people of London are usually like the climate of London itself. And because the climate, the sun's influence and how it energizes us plays a huge role in how we feel and how our body also functions. So a simple hack to this is that when the sun rises up late in your region, because it rises up on time, but the rays don't reach you because of the cloudiness. So this is why Ayurveda has an extension to it, which is yoga and tantra, which tell you how do you generate this energy within your own self. So if the sun is absent outside, you don't need the sun that's the physical sun. You are capable of generating this energy within yourself. And so that's why yoga has this understanding of the Ida and the Pingala Nadi. The Ida Nadi is the Chandra Nadi, or the lunar force that cools your body. And you have the Pingala Nadi with the Surya Nadi, which increases the temperature of the body or energizes the body. So you have simple practices like Anuloma Viloma Pranayama, where you focus upon the Pingala Nadi to generate this energy within. And it's just a simple 5-minute practice in the morning. And once you do this, you feel like you have been charged by the sun itself, and you have that energy to run, sustain throughout the day. So you have pranayama, you have mantras. So all of this are simple hacks. In fact, so the word hack is what I have to use here, because because otherwise that's why you have the equatorial regions, which are perfectly suited for the human body, because you have a balance between the cold and the hot. But when you're living in a region other than this, these are the simple principles that can be used to modify. So you can have food which has cinnamon or ginger that's more. So again, these heat up the body and they energize the body.
Thank you, Dr. Rishi. Also, so a lot of teenagers tend to go when after they finish their school, they're looking for universities abroad. So I've often heard this thing that there's a lot of climate change, and their body ancestrally might be used to a absolutely different kind of a food habit, but there it might not be the same. So how do they maintain that balance when they are in a different place, and so should they go with the environment there or with what they were having here? How to balance that?
So there are two concepts again in Ayurveda that speaks of this. One is the concept of okasatmya, what your body is habituated to, because your body is essentially what you eat. It's composed. Whatever food you eat has been processed all these years and has become what you see as your physical body. Versus when you move to another place, now there's another concept that tells you that your body functions in accordance to the climate and geography of a region. So when you move to another place, you will have to eventually convert your food habits to that of the new place. But also keeping in mind what your body's temperament is. So when you are adapted, so basically say that you've been consuming wheat for a long period in India, and then now you move to another place. So what you notice here is that you can continue with the same substance, wheat, but the form that it's produced in or consumed in will have to vary. So a simple example for this is that so you take those who live in the middle of India and you take those who live in the Himachal region. So both of them consume wheat, but in entirely two different forms. So those who live in the Madhya Pradesh region, their wheat consumption is in the form of very thin rotis. So this is light for digestion, but wheat is what is grown and is suited for the local geography. And you take the Himachal region, the wheat that they produce, that they convert, is in the form of a very thick bread. And this is very heavy for digestion, but it suits the local climate of that region. So wheat in idea is common to the geography, but the form that is consumed in varies upon the climate. So these are the principles that you can adopt when you're trying to move from one region to another and have a shift in the food that you consume.
Next question we have. We often hear about tantric influence on health. Can you throw some light on that?
What do we mean by on hair? Tantric influence on hair?
On health.
On health?
Yeah, that's what the question reads. That
Okay. All
the
right.
tantric influence on health.
On health. All right. So when we speak of tantra, that's why I use the word yoga instead. I didn't use the word tantra much because essentially yoga is tantra itself. Yoga and tantra do not have two different meanings, because tantra, the word tantra means a technique or a method, and yoga is what you're trying to achieve through different methods. And even Ayurveda is a tantra, Natya Shastra is a tantra. So all these sciences that we speak of, music is a tantra, dance is a tantra, martial arts is a tantra. So all these are methods of understanding how your body functions. It's a method of realizing yourself and attaining. Once you realize what the problem is and what you have the answer to it automatically. So that's why. So tantra is not a special system, that deals with anything esoteric or out of science, the laws of science. So all these different paths or different methods of healing yourself are tantra itself.
Okay. I think we'll take one last question. Ayurveda is holistic. Does it give you a positive aura, and can this energy be related to other people? Just to elaborate, I may be content and balanced, but I'm faced with unhappy teenagers every day. So, does Ayurveda give a positive aura, and can this energy be related to other people? That is the question.
So the holistic aspect of Ayurveda, when I speak of Ayurveda, it's because you're trying to energize your body, you're trying to energize your mind, and you're trying to energize your soul. You're trying to energize all these three dimensions of your being. So you can be satisfied because you have the sense of personal satisfaction. You feel enough because you are full of energy. When you don't lack anything, you attain the sense of satisfaction and the state of satisfaction. But as the question was says that you're faced with unhappy teenagers. So this is something that's common because there are two sides to it. One is that wherever there is light, those who seek that warmth or that light are the ones that come towards it. So this is not something that you need to worry about, because I think when you are a source of light, I think people who seek that light come towards you, and So it's not that you're faced with unhappy teenagers, but rather that unhappy teenagers are probably seeking a way of attaining that light. And so an aura is of course created whenever you have an understanding or a sense of fulfillment through any of these allied sciences that come under Ayurveda. So when you feel full, your aura is full.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rishi, for taking us through so much insight and giving us such a holistic and all angles about Ayurveda and explaining all of that so well. Thank you so much. And thank you everybody for your questions as well. We had one more question which was around careers. I'll save that for a later session. We have a specific session on careers in Ayurveda. But thank you so much, Dr. Rishi, again for your time and taking us through all the inputs. Next, our session is on the DIY tips for self-care. We all love to do some DIY tips regarding self-care, and there's a lot of focus on self-care these days, especially with the pandemic, all of us being stuck at home. We've been trying to do ourselves a lot of things, and there's again a lot of focus on self-care. So to take us through the session, we have with us Dr. Somit Kumar. He's currently working as the Director and Chief Scientific Officer at the Clinical Research and Pharmaceutics with AVP Research Foundation. He received a BMS degree from Sri Chandrasekharendra Saraswati Vishwa Mahavidyalaya Kanchipuram in 2005 and his MD from Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences, Bengaluru. He has also done a PG certificate course in clinical research and clinical data management from Pune in 2007. Namaste, Dr. Somit. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Ayushi. And I think I will share some lighter part of the whole intellectual discussion. But I have always believed that Ayurveda is a science of reasoning and evidence rather than science of faith. And if we have to give one message to teenagers and Gen Z or Z, what you call, is that though it is traditional, though it is ancient, it is contemporary and very scientific. And why I said this is I would take you through my presentation. The first quotation, what I say is, indulgence is not sin. So we all know that when we are young, we indulge, but is it a sin? Yes, it is a sin if it is not individualized and when it does not follow the principles of chronobiology. Now, why I say this, like, these are two basic words in which the indulgence or Dr. Rishi or Madam Anandi was talking about is this whole regime, the discipline. So today, one word which many of us being in young generation likes is to rebel against rituals, to rebel against tradition, to rebel against something which is our past. But is it very correct or apt just to rebel because you are young and want to be just thinking different? I say may not be. If there is strong science behind it, if there is strong reasoning behind it, behind these rituals, behind these traditions, behind this discipline which was told to be followed by a human at large, or for staying with the nature, or in union with nature, which our previous speakers were talking about, then it should be followed. And that is where I'm trying to tell you, this is the science of chronobiology. So this is one of the most recent advances in biology where people have understood, and that's why the Nobel Prize of Medicine in 2017 went to the this research on what Rishi was talking about, is effect of or intensity of sunlight on your human physiology. Now, I would like to start with a kind of a data which Dr. Nandi was also talking about, which gives us in terms of pandemic today or now at this glance. If you see, the number of cases in Kerala is around 6 lakhs or approaching 7 lakhs. But if you see death, it is far less than what their peer states are. Have you thought about why? It's not that they are doing something very different, or maybe they have a good public health system, but why death rate is so low? When we talk about mere urban population, a lot of wealth, a lot of modernity is Maharashtra. You see, it is lying on the top of their chart. What is going wrong in their diet and lifestyle? What is wrong in the way they have approached their health? Now, these are some questions as a teenager or as a young person who is thinking about well-being need to question. Why? I'm talking about from the data perspective. Data clearly shows that something is going right there in south of India, especially in the Kerala, and something going wrong in the most advanced materialistic world of Maharashtra. Now, I'm not against any state I'm not trying to get a generalized comment, but then I would like to explain this whole concept of individualization and concept of chronobiology. Now, Ayurveda always talks about that you should respect your individual being. Like, for example, this is a guy, Mr. Bean, who makes us really laugh, but he seems to have Vata type. Why? Because of his genes, what he inherited from his ancestors, parents, gave him such a physiological, anatomical, or psychological blend of his characteristic. And here, for example, these people, whether male or female, tend to have a dry skin. Now, for example, in Ayurvedic Dinacharya, which all of our previous speakers have talked about, they have been told that if you have a dry skin and you are a Vata type, you need to apply sesame oil if possible. Now, if you look at your kind of, a generation before, like even my generation, I don't know which generation I am, but the thing is, we were always taught as a child to apply oil. I am belonging to Eastern India, and I was always applying oil on my skin, not the cream. The oil, a mustard oil, which was a little hot oil, of course. In other regions, it can be sesame oil, other can be almond oil. So now, what you need to understand, that first understand yourself. See, there is nothing unscientific or ritualistic of not applying oil. See, if people are applying cream, which has a lot of added chemicals, and in fact, a cream does have just 2% of oil and rest is water. And what you do is, when you apply too much of cream, over the time, the skin microflora changes, the bacterial microflora changes, and slowly you start developing a lot of skin allergies, sun sensitivity, and your skin sometimes become a lot sensitive after applying those creams and oils. Now, the thing is, if you respect your traditional culture where it was not an emulsion and you didn't have to add preservative because you have added water and oil into it, so it becomes a cream and it has to be emulsified, then have a preservative. All don't do that. Just apply a serum. Now, these days, companies talks about serum. And what is this serum? It's a simple oil which is processed in certain herb. So if you are a Vata type, if you analyze based on these, there are a lot of properties which has been told. So being a modern human, if there is a science and a sense, so if you are trying to evaluate yourself on these 3 scores, where do you lie? And based on these scores, if there are certain advices which has been told by our traditional texts of Ayurveda, which had a lot of science, if you can follow, it makes your life easier. So one message what I want to immediately give you for your skincare is, please look for serums, please look for oils rather than just creams. I don't say they are absolutely bad, and sometimes but essentially it is chemical. If you need to be more organic, and in fact what your skin needs is middle chain fatty acid. The same coconut oil, if you buy 100 milliliters, it will cost you sometimes cheaper than buying a cream which has just 2% coconut oil, that is 2 milliliter, and you pay much higher price for it. Now, being modern, being rationalistic, I don't find why you should go for something paying more, which is less healthy than what is more natural. And that's why the serum culture is coming up. So try using different oils, or what we say base oils in the modern culture. Almond oil, sesame oil, mustard oil, coconut oil, they all are middle chain fatty acid, which takes care of your flora, that is skin flora. It hydrates your skin. It improves the functioning of the sebum. Now, why? So Vata type people have dry skin, so they have some problem with the secretion of natural sebaceous secretion in the skin, naturally, genetically. So that's why they need to get into sesame oil, which is more Vata reducing. For example, you are a Pitta person, and then you have a skin of a Pitta. You will see in teenage, you will have a lot of breakouts, with little bit of improper lifestyle and diet, acidic food. You start getting, your skin will be soft, thin, but tendency for more moles, acne, and freckles are high. So if you know already by this evaluation that you are a Pitta person, be careful with adapting to those diet and lifestyle advices which is suited for your body type. Now, people sometimes argue, is it that if you tell me not to eat this, isn't it that I am unhealthy? My answer is very simple, is everything is not made for everybody in this world. See, you should really respect your individuality. God has created a set of products for you. So you should rather relish that individuality and uniqueness, and without understanding is, if you indulge in eating everything and anything around you, it will only lead to a state where you will start creating imbalance right from the beginning, and especially with the kind of lifestyle we are leading as a teenager these days. We have so much of exposure to different kinds of intercontinental food. I don't see that's part of materialism, that's part of marketing, that's part of globalization. We cannot deny that. But being sensible, being modern, is that you have to indulge, but cheat days, what you say, should be very few. But if you stick, now why I tell this, there are a lot of research which is in the field of nutrigenomics. There is a new branch of nutrition which is very much talked about these days, is genomics, that identify your genotype. And this was one of the basic pillars of Ayurveda, to understand your individual genetic makeup through this Vata, Pitta, Kapha questionnaires. Please do, everybody, please do, and see what you can eat. Somebody will eat bell pepper and will feel so bad, probably Pitta and a little bit of Kapha. Now, some people will eat bell pepper, they don't feel bad. They may be more Vata type. Now, this is a reality at the experiential level. So try to accept it and try to stick to things which suits you genetically. And there is nothing being ritualistic or nothing being unscientific or following the tradition. It is just you need to basically respect your individuality. So for example, another tips is, suppose when you don't indulge in such kind of diet and you get a moles and freckles and you are a teenager and you feel very bad. So first thing I'll say, please address to your lifestyle, sleep on time, eat dietetics, like, for them, eat more, like, pumpkins, you can eat, bitter gourds and bottle gourd and rich gourd, but nobody wants to eat all these juicy vegetables which Madam Anandi was talking about, like, sattvic food. If you eat such They are itself a natural blood purifier, which will reduce your proneness to have these acnes. Food is the greatest medicine. As Rishi was telling you, you are what you eat. First thing is that. The second thing is very simple things like, nutmeg. There is a nutmeg spice. There is a edel, red colored edel, which you give in biryani. Very simple. It out of your kitchen. Take this nutmeg edel, that is the leaf, or like it looks like a leaf, but it's part of the covering of the seed. Properly grind it in water or milk. If your skin is dry, then it should be in milk. If it is oily, then in water, and just apply on their moles and the freckles, the discoloration when it happens. It is one of the very simple things which you can do out of your. But yes, only you do this and you don't control your diet, then that's no more Ayurveda. It has to be a kind of multi-dimensional approach to addressing, because this is not just hormonal, but it is also because of your food and lifestyle which you have. Now, for example, Kapha type, they have very clear, firm, complexion, good skin, shiny skin, but then they are prone to a lot of oily skin. So then a lot of toners and other things come in the market. But what you need to understand is, in such cases, face packs, like for example, there is a very simple remedy has been told. You have this Mysore dal, like red lentil, simple thing in your kitchen. You just boil it till it becomes soft, or make it powder and then cook it to make it a paste consistency, and add little butter, little 1/4 proportion of vacha. Vacha is Acorus calmus or bach in north of India, this powder, and then just mix it and apply as a face pack. This is a simple thing which helps you to take care of an oily skin. Now, whatever said and done, one important principle of Ayurveda is 3 pillars of health. If you need to be healthy, you have to control or be disciplined. Now, this is one thing which we don't like as a teenager. Why should we be disciplined? We should be something different. But then that is the way to live healthy and happy. When we realize it may be too late, as some of our colleagues were talking about, we realize we amass all the wealth and everything by 60 years. And by the time it comes for us to relish what we have amassed, we don't have health to enjoy it. So what is the message is, realize early, be more intelligent, apply this concept of individuality, and apply the concept of chronobiology. Now, why this is chronobiology? Because the food, what you eat, the time when you sleep, and how you manage your sexual life are the 3 basic pillars of longevity, living long and healthy. Now, Rishi was talking to you about is when the sun rises is there where metabolism kicks, and is very correct. And when we eat the most, it is our dinner. This is the first sin what we are doing. Indulgence is not sin, but if you indulge, you have a heavy fat dinner, you are doing a sin. Why? Because it's the night where you have to repair your physical body and your psychological body. So your physical and psychological stress gets neutralized by your physical body or by your physiology in the night. But if you have eaten heavy, you have given another big task for your body to perform. So what happens is, when you eat heavy, you get up more stressed in the morning and more ill physically in the morning, and you feel very tired and very stressed because you had a heavy dinner. Just imagine you have a Saturday party, and how do you feel in Sunday morning? Very heavy, very lull. Why? Because you didn't eat on proper time. Now, why this? Because this Nobel Prize of Medicine I was talking, they studied that in your body, each hormone, when is the time for digesting proteins, when is the time for digesting carbs and fat, everything is properly disciplined. It is timed. Now, the fat digestion ends by 6 o'clock. If you eat fat after 6 in the evening, you end up not digesting it. The optimal time to digest protein is afternoon, around 1 to 2. If you eat heavy protein, meat and other things in night, you are not going to live healthy. So let us be also scientific. Look at this data. Now, many of us get up, we say we are so healthy, and we start doing our exercise at 8 o'clock when our blood pressure and heart rate is more. See, Dr. Andy was talking to you about that. Get up before sunrise. That is where you have to start your day, because that is the time when all the major female and male hormones are peaking. In fact, when you wake up early in the morning and exercise in the morning, it improves your fertility. It improves your overall health. If you end up doing exercise, of course, it's a healthy regime, but at the wrong time, after the sunrise, you are going to increase all your stress hormones, because after sunrise, all your stress hormone, angiotensin, your blood pressure rises, your blood viscosity, blood pressure is very high. Now, are we doing right? No. So when we talk about Surya Namaskara in yogic tradition, they are told that Brahme Muhurta Rishi was talking before sunrise, and Surya Namaskara has to be done at the sunrise time, not at 8 o'clock when sun is already risen. So please follow, and there's a lot of science behind it where these hormones interplay to make your life more balanced. That's why it was told a heavy brunch. So in Indian tradition, there was 2-meal theory. There has to be a heavy brunch around 10 to 11. That's the best. And a very light dinner, which is non-proteinaceous, not fatty, because you can't digest protein and fat so much in the night. So have very fibrous, rich antioxidant diet in the evening. That solves your problem. It improves your hormones. A lot of teenage girls suffering from acne, polycystic ovarian disease, I'll show you, just can be prevented, can be managed. You keep on applying acne cream, nothing happens. Why? Because you're not changing your diet and lifestyle. So that's why you have to plan your day. This is a slide from Lancet Journal, one of the best medical journal, which published this article, said, please plan your life. Why? Because when you get up and when you sleep, regulates your suprachiasmatic nuclei. This is the master clock in your brain, which regulates each organ, which organ will work at what time. That is, it depends on when you wake up and when you sleep, and meal timings. When you eat, if you do not plan your meal timings, if you do not wake up at the time, see, most of the teenagers today, we are owls. We study in the night, but end up suffering from cardiac issues, all those obesity and stress as a student. Why? Because we have not aligned our work, our study schedule according to natural rhythm, and we end up harming our body. And that's what, by the time you have the time to enjoy what you have achieved, you are so much ill. And then the social and family life, that also has an impact. So how you deal with your society around you and a family environment does impact your hormones. And most of the modern disease, be it cancer, be it diabetes, fat, obesity, everything, 70% of the disease is because of these issues. So that's why you need to break your day, create a chart for your daily regime, lifestyle. Please, if you do this, you start. So there's nothing about ritualistic. Your mom tells get up in the morning. It's not about ritual. It is about science. I was telling you, why should you eat according to your body type? Because nutrigenomics says that most common dietary chemicals can act on human genome either directly or indirectly to alter gene expression and structure. And the degree at which diet influences the balance between healthy and disease state may depend on individual genetic makeup. So I was telling you, it's told that individual genetic makeups plays a major role. And what it says, some diet regulated gene play a role in the onset, creation, incidence, progression, and severity of chronic diseases. So it's well documented, well scientifically documented what Ayurveda talks about, what we never realized unless and until it gets a Nobel Prize. Then we start howling, oh, in our text it's been told. But where were you? It was taught to us by our grandparents, and we thought that they are old-fashioned people. No, they had, of course, they may have took it as a tradition, but you have to reason out the science behind it. Then always people will talk about, Dr. Anandi was talking about fasting, how to do fasting. Stop eating at 6 o'clock in the evening or 7. At the sunset, stop. Jains, many Jains, they tell you, we stop eating by sunset. This is the best practice of calorie restriction. And she was talking about another Nobel Prize on autophagia or intermittent fasting. What it says, please eat half your capacity. What if you can eat 2,000 calories a day, please eat at least 60% or 1,600 calories only. You will live longer. Already got the Nobel Prize of medicine. You can age slow. That means your skin will not become wrinkled fast. You will be more hydrated. You will look more younger if you follow this lifestyle. So eat less, live long. Today, when we have a lot of affluence and money, we eat more because we feel that we can buy everything and anything else. We order a pizza from Italy. We may order a hot dog from US, but is it making you healthy? No, it's just contrary, something which you are eating. So that's why it says that importance of, so when you are awake, when the sun is there, only keep eating. When the sun sets, fast. And that is where you will get a better life. Second, people talk about, these days, it's very fashionable to go to a Chinese restaurant and you order a kind of a tofu, and tofu with what is that Japanese soup, like manchao? No, so some sour soup. Can anybody tell me about that? There's a Japanese soup. Okay, so it's a very some soup is there, Japanese, which is probiotic. Now we feel very kind of oh, we are taking a Japanese sour soup, but nobody is ready to drink charge or a buttermilk, which is the biggest probiotic. It balances the emotions. Why? Because it manages your gut microflora. If somebody tells you to take a lassi, a Punjabi, or a charge in the south of India, the thumb rule Rishi was telling you that more hotter the country will be, the lower will be the digestive fire. So you have to protect it by giving less heavy food. That's why the chapati is very thin in the Madhya Pradesh, which is a little hotter, and chapati is very thick in Punjab. Because when you go to colder country, you will get heavy food because you have a lot of Agni. I will tell you why. And there is a lot of research backing it. So that's why first thing, start taking a probiotic, but not probiotic from China or Japan, but you have to take your own local probiotics, and Chach and Lassi is one of the best. Now, I was talking to you about this whole seasonal regime. He was talking about that you have the best physical strength. So Ayurveda also talked about, or yoga talked about, when to do exercise more and when to do less. So it is thumb rule that when it is more winter season, you have better physical strength, best metabolism, and highest, or you can indulge in sexual activity little more. So why? Because you can digest what you have eaten best, so you have a better physical strength and vitality. Now, when it becomes summer, your metabolism reduces, and so is your physical strength. So in summer seasons, do less exercise, eat less, and indulge in less sexual activities. Now, why? There's a very good research in 2011 published by Journal of Journal of Physiology. It says how environmental temperature affects your core body temperature or metabolism. If you see in summer, there is no core organ activity. In winter, you have more core, means it's more hot inside, you can digest more. in the summer, it becomes peripheral. So that's why it's already proven well why you should. Now, I'm showing you another. See, each hormone is different in different season. In December to, by July, summer, all these sex hormones comes down. That's why it was already told in the Ayurveda, when you want to indulge your frequency of sex in the winter season should be more, and in summer season it should be less. If you want to eat heavy food, that's why Christmas was always in winter season. I got a very nice, one of our session we had, Brazilians told that, see, Christmas is in winter season in North Hemisphere, but South Hemisphere in Argentina, it is summer. So they can't eat the same recipes and cake, which is heavy food in winter Christmas, and they have to have some summer Christmas dishes. So you need to understand, and all the scientific evidence tells you that how this is so aligned. See, most of the hormones which regulates with your fertility is high in the winter season. Now, even pituitary function has a hormonal rhythm, which is the master gland. So please respect these lifestyle, because if you don't follow this lifestyle, it can create disease, or it creates diseases. Second thing is another aspect of our indulgence. We all like fragrances, So talking about aromatherapy, we buy perfumes and all. But today we don't have a science behind it. Ayurveda gave a big science. The fragrance has a effect on your psyche and physiology, is now proven by modern medicine, but how it changes your brain activity, delta, theta, alpha, and beta, and gamma activities. And each wave has certain cognitive functions. And this was well understood by Ayurvedic text. Now it talks about, if you want to feel good and you have an imbalance of some doshas, like we have a protocol through which we can know that what is the imbalance. If you have a imbalance of all the three doshas, what is fragrance to be taken is jasmine, or even a contemporary kind of, flavor which you get across. Please read what are the fragrances or notes into it. Do that. Try taking jasmine. Or if you have a lot of acidity, lot of kind of, freckles and moles and acne and a lot of heat in your body, prefer using fragrances from lotus, the lotus fragrance. Or if you have a lot of, dryness in your system with a lot of fluid collection, take rose, or champaka is, champa we say. It's kind of, there are a lot of options in fragrance where this is one of the mid note we say. In the perfumery, it's called as mid note or flower note. Try using that. See, what you should appreciate that they had so much of intelligence even to choose specific notes for specific people, because you are an individual. Your psyche, you cannot think the way your friends think. Your individuality is there. So you should also have a way to individualize this indulgence. Like, for example, when it's winter, then you have to use certain blue lotus fragrance, or there are kind of, for example, normal lotus smell can be taken throughout all the seasons. Next is, if you look at other season wise, like, in the season wise, again, saffron and sandal and oud, agar is good for winter. Sandal, camphor, jasmine is good for summer. Sandal with saffron and musk is good for rainy season and cold season. Ketaki, the pandanus, kevada we say in Hindi, is good in spring season. Champaka or champa is good in autumn. So see, they had an intelligence in which they had observed these phenomena which gave balance to human physiology and human psychology. You all talk about seasonal attenuated depression. Somebody in UK, winter depression is one of the biggest thing there I go in Scandinavia, it's a big problem. What is used by them? People have forgotten eating sauerkraut. And in Ayurvedic regime, it has told that sour food and salty food should be mainly taken in winter, because these are probiotics which elevates your mood and you will feel better. So similarly, all this fragrance had an effect on mood. Now, apart from that, see, even they had studied the correlation with your body type and dosha with the kind of material and color of the cloth what you use. Like silk cloth more in winter, if it is saffron color cloth in summer, white robe, white color clothes in rainy season, dark and variegate, a lot of combination of colors, it should be worn by a vata person, and specifically in winter season. And if it is kapha person, then he should wear red. A pitta person wears red, I tell you, he'll be always angry. Or if he he makes a house which is painted red inside, he's going to be in a mental situation. So you need to understand that there is a lot of thought behind it. White is neither hot, it's a neutral color, so it is balancing. Now, sleep is the third pillar of life. Now, sleep, which we as teenager, we have seen that never follows. Now, sleep is a very important pillar in our life, and we need to have 6 to 8 hours of sleep, and not at what time we take. Because today I have seen there are two major problems with young teenage women. One is hormonal imbalances leading to PCOS, affecting their fertility, then acne, weight issues. Why? Because they sleep very late and they wake up very late in the morning. Why? Because they say, oh, they are more concentrated in the night. But this is taking a biggest toll in teenage health. So please, if you want to avoid all these issues, sleep by 10 and wake up by 4 o'clock. If you are 6 hours sleeper, if 8 hours, by 6. Please, according to science, the best attention is between 8 to 10 o'clock. If you have to properly do some work with attention, that is the time. Or if you want to have the best memory, then it is before sunrise. But we are all the opposites. We sleep at the sunrise time and we try to do something where our attention is very least. And that's a common condition. A lot of studies have been done how it affects your melatonin and creates in young women a lot of issues, metabolic issues, fat issues, circadian clock. So these are a very important. What I wanted to just give you a message is these tips seems to be very simple, but it has deep science within which we all need to explore. If you don't explore, then what happens is, because it is traditional, something which our grandparents or our parents had been following, it is just you have to forsake it. I think it's not the right approach to being a modern intellectual young generation. Thank you for your patient hearing. And I don't know, we have time for questions, but at the end, I think we can take some questions. Let's finish the other talks.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, Samarji. Okay, so we'll take the questions towards the end, and we'll have our last session, which is on careers of Ayurveda. And for that, we have with us Dr. Komang, who's an Ayurvedic doctor from Indonesia. She has completed her undergraduate from Ayurvedic College at Chennai and MD at IPGTRE, Gujarat Ayurveda University, Jamnagar. Before entering college, she had to join a youth empowerment program conducted by Chinmaya Mission India for 6 months. And now she is a PhD scholar at the same college in Jamnagar and has also started to work as a lecturer at 2 universities in Bali and Indonesia since the pandemic attacked the globe. Besides that, she's also a mother of 2 sons and an editor in 3 international journals. Thank you, Dr. Komang. Namaste. Thank you for joining us. We also have for the session, along with Dr. Komang, we also have Elif Zeynep Balak Babler, I'm really sorry if I've pronounced the name wrong, Elif. She's a first year BAMS SDMCA Udupi, Karnataka, India. She's a Turkish student currently studying at SDM College of Ayurveda in Udupi and has completed her degree in 2017 from METU. While studying for her undergraduate degree, she met with yoga and Vedic sciences, including Ayurveda. Now, working as a yoga instructor and giving courses about yoga, her interest in Ayurveda grew. She took a course with Dr. Somit and decided to learn Ayurveda from its birthplace, India. With the scholarship from ICCR, she started her studies in India in the year 2019. Thank you so much, Elif, and welcome. Thank you for joining us, Elif and Dr. Kumang.
Thank you.
I will hand it over to both of you for the session now, and I would really love to hear both of your journeys and the careers that you have chosen specifically in Ayurveda, because I think it is one field that is not so, that we are not as well aware and well informed about.
Yes, right. Shall I start?
Yes, Dr. Kumar, you can start and then maybe we can ask Elif.
Okay, thank you, Ayushi. So, namaste, everyone. Myself, Dr. Komang, maybe a brief introduction had been introduced by Ayushi. And I am from Indonesia, Bali, especially. And at present, I'm a PhD student of Shalya Department, Gujarat Ayurveda University in Jamnagar. I'm still a student, PhD student, because of pandemic I came here. So I feel very honored to be invited in this occasion. I want to share a little bit of my life experience, as you told. So for choosing this career, especially. So firstly, I would like to bring to flashback of the memory that bring me to this field of Ayurveda. I came from a very normal family with no background of medicine at all. So my father was a program planner in Directorate General of Hindu Religion in Jakarta. So it's the capital city of Indonesia. And he was the man behind the scene, actually, not me. So he had a thought of spreading the wisdom of Vedas, basically the Vedas, because we are as Hindu minority, as the world know that Hindu religion in our country, especially Indonesia, it is very minor. So he had in mind to take up the young Indonesian to study regarding the Vedas. One of them is like Ayurveda. He found some information about Ayurveda as a medical system of ancient from the Vedas. So he had proposed this idea to me as his daughter. So, and he gave me a small book about introduction of Ayurveda. So I don't remember who was the author of the book, but I did took my time to look at the book, and I finished reading the book, and still I have no idea. I have no idea what was that Ayurveda about. So I was like, okay, I said yes to him because I love this Mahabharata and Ramayana basically. I read a lot about this Ramayana and Mahabharata. So this starts my journey. So I went to India at the age of 17 years old, and I joined UG college nearby Somitsar in Chennai, and now I'm still a student of Ayurvedic in Jamnagar. And that was a glance about my journey on how I get in this field. So now I'm working as a lecturer. Here we have oldest Hindu university in Bali, because we are a minor. I told you we have the Hindu university, both private and government. One is Unhi, Hindu University of Indonesia, and then the other one is Igusti Bagus Sugriwa in Denpasar, Bali. So if you ask me about this topic, the career of the Ayurveda, actually I'm not the one to speak about this career because I just started my career at this pandemic time. So the point that I noted during my experience period, especially in my country, because I just came back from India after 11 years of study from UG, PG, and my PhD. So I just came back in February. That the Ayurveda brand is in every corner in the globe, especially in Bali. Bali is one island of tourism in Indonesia. So this brand is everywhere in the corner. But if you ask about the authenticity or the genuinity, is very something rare to find in any field, in cosmetic, whether in spa, in all kind of business, industry, agriculture, everything is like you cannot find some genuine things from Ayurveda science. So but the positive thing is any businessman can use this brand of Ayurveda without knowing its original science, of course. But there is some positive and negative things about that. And one side, people also do trust because they feel some benefits out of it, and also because some this yoga Ayurveda, they mix things, here. So they thought that okay, yoga is from Ayurveda is like from a yoga, everything is mixed. And but the benefit of their trust and enthusiasm makes this brand of Ayurveda is more even more famous nowadays. And the fact is that Ayurveda is mushrooming. The brand of Ayurveda is mushrooming in our country. Anyway, beside all these things happening, Ayurveda is quite a way of living that like elaborately everything in scientific way. So I saw is very nice presentation. It has a very much scope to be as equal as other system medicine, especially in other country than India. This knowledge is applicable almost in everything: the diets, the way of life, the nutrition, hygiene, even the serious illnesses like chronic illnesses, spirituality that all Western look for in Eastern country, and rituals, the yoga, and everything is included under Ayurveda. So what I think is, if only there is a genuine people to introduce the science to public, just like how yoga and other aspect flourishing, the same way Ayurveda can also do. At present, the strength of Ayurveda is even more, as we know that in government of India had announced that they will allow the surgery in from Ayurvedic graduates. And luckily, fortunately, I am in surgery department. I come from a surgery department. So this even more make our scientific stronger, that this evidence is stronger among us, and people start look at, okay, surgery is there, it was there before itself, before the allopathy itself. So this also benefits us. So in the career of Ayurveda, as an Ayurvedic practitioner, what we can do in this era is introducing the science related to many fields, such as uh, like uh, nowadays, if I tell you this cosmetic brands of Ayurveda, spa relaxing centers, and chronic illnesses, and this Ayurvedic prescribed regimen that already Somit sir had told in different season and conditions. And we have to know their individual uniqueness, like body types. These people, those who doesn't know Ayurveda, they all got interest because it's about their body, their self. They want to understand themselves, and then they want to maintain their health in their body type. So this also we can introduce to the people, especially millennial people, Gen Z, what you call as about. And second one, we can produce genuine products. What I'm talking is this is about the condition of Ayurveda outside India. Okay, so in India is very usual thing, but this is what we can find in other than India, especially in my country. And we can produce some genuine product to support the treatment as well as regimen advice. So we can use those products genuinely by the practitioner, trained practitioner, and open a green area to educate the public that this is what I mean, it's fit for you or not. And we can promote the empirical tradition advices. This is what most important, because we are generally confused of what we are taking, of what we are consuming. So we have to look back our grandmother, what they said. It's not like avoiding them and be the modern type of people. So we have to listen what this empirical tradition and bring the idea of empirical tradition becoming most important for our benefit. So this is what I thought about the Ayurvedic practitioners can do in other than India. And we all know that the Ayurvedic treatments so famous, okay, especially some of the treatment like body massage. Here some relaxing center, they use all these things: body massage, detox colon, ear cleaning therapy. They may have no idea about what they are doing, because of course this only people who have in the field of profession, they could understand this, and they mix with the local wisdom, like local health medicine system. So maybe the result will be less or more, we can see the result, but not maximum or optimum in the level. So we can introduce all these things to people that this comes from Ayurveda, and it's still surviving till now. So there is something you should learn from this if it survived thousands of years till now. So the challenge is to introduce the science, I think, to explain the millennial about the tremendous benefit of the most ancient health system in preventing as well as curing the disease is to set up the mind of the millennial, to make them sure of what we're talking about, and there is a reference, there is a scientific progress or research had been done, and we can show all those things through our professions. And we can promote the science without leaving its genuinity, like what's happening here, like whatever mushrooming here, the business mushrooming in our country, we can show the genuinity, but we have to explain also the limitation of the system. Sometimes we hide the limitation of the system, and it's not wise, and it ultimately break the system itself. People won't trust anymore. And how to develop the science further, maybe through what is in trend right now, like a social media. We can write in articles, newsletter in our local languages, and doing some webinars. Like I did some webinars regarding about Ayurveda in pandemic, and people have started to know about Ayurveda, especially Hindu people, because we can reach up to that level right now. And maybe we can spread through the health checkup in the public and promote the Ayurvedic, and a program of educating health basic Ayurvedic to schools or to campus or to any other this healthcare, other healthcare than Ayurveda. And actually now we have 7 members of Ayurvedic doctors from Indonesia, and we started make a little organization about that. Later on, maybe I can publish, but now it's not prepared yet. So we expect that this Ayurvedic science can be introduced and can be known by people as its science, not as its business background. So maybe we also need a help from India and some other people, like the one who conducted this. So I hope that will be informative to fill the session. So, and thank you very much for the session that given to me. Okay. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you, Dr. Kumang, for sharing your experience with Ayurveda and your journey. And I think, yes, like you mentioned very well, and even Dr. Somit was mentioning, I remember talking to one other doctor also from Ayurveda, and even he was saying that when it comes to being an Ayurveda doctor, it is something that, if you are somebody who's really curious and wanting to learn a lot, because in Ayurveda, even if one person is coming with some problem, you cannot give a general medicine or a general solution for everybody. You have to study each person's
Yes.
situation,
Right.
environment, the body type. So, there's a lot more required in
Yeah.
Ayurveda. So, yes, thank you for sharing. Elif, would you like to share your journey and about your career?
Hello, yes, I was having some technical problems. Thanks for coping with me. I think I will be able to open my video now as well.
Okay, no worries.
Yes.
Yes, we can see
Okay.
you. Hi. Namaste. Thank you for joining in.
Namaste. Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. Good evening, everyone. Like Dr. Kamang, I also want to share my journey, like how I ended up here. Me, myself is Elif Zeynep Balak Babalar. I'm currently studying in STM College of Ayurveda, Udupi, as a first-year student. Of course, due to this pandemic and all, we are now in between first and second year. It's still not sure, but let's say first year. And I like to start how I ended up here. First of all, like Ms. Ayşe said, I'm coming from Turkey, and there in Turkey also, as for entrance to the university, we have a similar examination like the process NEET here. So, like the next 18-year-old person, I was also clueless what to do and what to select after the examination with all these ideas coming from the parents, family, friends, basically whole society. As a doctor, my father wanted me to study medicine, of course, which I replied, oh, come on, studying medicine is totally madness. Working as a doctor, bigger and greater mad job, which still my present self still laughing about this big verse of my past self. Anyway, so I started searching for something fun with good money, and yeah, helping the society would be a bonus. So, which got me into city and regional planning. If you know the scope of planners, you know there is good money actually in the business. And I was studying in the best university, enjoying myself, caring almost nothing until I met yoga while studying in the university. So I started doing yoga like most of the other Western people. Like I thought it's an exercise, stretching with the funky poses. But from that time onwards, slowly my concerns started to change from materialistic stuff to more real stuff. You know the drill. In time being, I came across with Ayurveda. Back then, I didn't know what it means, and unfortunately, I also thought it's not like a science, but a medicine, not even a medicine, but something practiced in the public. Anyways, reading, learning everything I can find. But truth is, the essence of Ayurveda is not there much out still. After some years of, let's say, researching, somehow I met with Dr. Samit and found out that, okay, I want to learn this properly and practice and teach it with no shortcuts, no faulty knowledge. So I ended up here. With this introduction, I actually wanted to point out few things. If you're going to choose something that you're going to stick with for your whole life, surround it with your core principles and never think it is too early or too late. Everything happens when it's meant to be. About Ayurveda specifically, see, healing and teaching are the two most noble jobs ever existed. And yes, a career in Ayurveda can give you reputation, wealth, etc. But if you're going to do it right, uh, you will be a student for life. Like how Dr. Komang said, she's still studying her PG and all. We'll be students for a whole lifetime. That is for sure. And we let's say have to put others and society's well-being first at some time prior than our families. And if one is willing to pursue Ayurveda as a career, let's say, he or she should understand the beauty and how holy it is, why the whole world started to turn their eyes on the east when it comes to health. The medicinal practice here, I mean the East, is still not under the control of Western pharmacies, whose aim is monetary gain, basically. Beauty of Ayurveda is the power it gives to the patient, to the public, to take care of themselves rather than empowering big companies. Uh, Now, what comes after the basic education to work in the field of Ayurveda? As a first year student, I am actually, I don't know how much I'm qualified to talk about the career, but I'll just share some opportunities which might be come up in the future. With the increasing demand for Ayurveda all around the world, we can be pioneers of this science actually. Um, all around the world, generally the countries accept Ayurveda. There are three levels of professionals, which are like first health counselor, practitioner, and doctors. As a counselor, one can offer lifestyle and dietary guidance, supporting the patient to gain control over their health, also making them much more confident about their own lives. Many courses around the globe, even online courses, giving basic knowledge about Ayurveda prepares people for being a counselor. With some intermediate courses, one can become a practitioner who can give treatments according to imbalances that they can understand, but they can't prescribe medicine. And lastly, doctors, as we know. As being a doctor, also one can specialize in any branches of Ayurveda like Shalya, Shalakya, or Panchakarma, etc. Some post-graduation courses I want to share for information. These are toxicology, pediatrics, pharmacology, gynecology, rasa shastra, surgery, ENT, internal medicine, Maulika Siddhanta, which is the fundamental principles where Ayurveda is coming from, Panchakarma, clinical medicine, anatomy, physiology, and preventive medicine, which these all courses take 3 years of duration. Again, in the countries legally accept Ayurveda, one can work as a doctor in a government or private hospital or can have their own clinics. Other than clinical practice, due to Ayurvedic drugs variety, inside India, there is a big scope for research. For example, in college, we learn about the substances and their combinations according to their qualities and the medicinal outcome, but most of the plants are not there anymore or not available in other countries, my country, for example. So what to do in other parts of the globe, like how to substitute and maybe finding similar effects of Ayurvedic drugs. These questions combined with modern technology and understanding creates a great area for research and creative field for Ayurveda as well. Another career path is education field. This field is again very creative and rich in opportunities. Wherever in the world you can pursue teaching Ayurveda, and by teaching you will be serving society and the world greatly by carrying this science throughout the time. We humans can survive only in societies. This means we all have duties for each other. As future Ayurvedic doctors, we should always keep in mind this fact and put our best what we can do for other people and for us as well. If it's meant to be, all the other benefits we heard will come as a bonus, not a requirement we search for, basically. Yeah, I think about the career paths and the scope of Ayurveda now. These are the things I want to share. Now, if there are any questions, I think we have time. I don't know.
Thank you so much, Elif, for sharing giving us a broader perspective and understanding of the careers that we can pursue if we are interested in Ayurveda. And I think, like very well you mentioned, if you are in Ayurveda, you are a student for life, which I think all of us are a student for life. But with Ayurveda, while we give, we are also receiving a lot. And we tend to live a wealthy and healthier life in a holistic manner and spread the same for others. So thank you for sharing with us all the perspectives.
Thank you for this opportunity.
Okay, I will check if we have some questions. Maybe you or Dr. Sumit or Dr. Rishi, Dr. Kumang, anybody can answer. So I'll just go through. Yeah, so one question was, is it possible for a young person to have a good career in this sort of field, which is stable and has lucrative opportunities?
So if I take the lead, see, if you are best in any field, you have enough opportunities. So how you are driven by your passion and inner desire to serve the science, and how you convinced about it. So I think that's a question which is relative. I see a best tea seller is the best person. Like, you can sell a tea and make millions. So it's not that what profession. So are you passionate, you're convinced, and hardworking, it pays.
Thank you, Dr. Sumit. Next question we have, how can a family make a menu plan for people of different doshas?
Yeah, so this has been a very practical question for wherever I go across the globe, because I teach across the globe. So what we have seen is, so when we talk about people who are healthy, if all the members in the family, if you are healthy, then there are certain broad vegetables, cereals, which are good for all the dosha type. So they are part of your many of the menus. So one thumb rule is you have to stick to your local menu and local a seasonal vegetable. If you are relatively healthy, follow that local menu, local recipe, and local vegetable and seasonal vegetables. If you follow that, you will relatively live healthy. So one thumb rule is buy a vegetable when it is cheap. It's demand and supply. So when the demand is there but supply is high, cheap it will, that means that is the season where you have to eat. If you eat a broccoli in India when it is not like sold it like basically an Indian vegetable, then you will get of course you will pay high, you will feel good, empowered, but it's not going to be healthy. And so you rather take cauliflower, which is more Indian, like more local, and eat. And then, but yes, if you are having a vata imbalance, then don't take cauliflower, because after eating cauliflower you feel gassy. If you are feeling gassy, that means that is not the right vegetable for you. So what is, again, how to know what is good for us is be sensitive to yourself. See, we become mindful, we do yoga and concentration, but we never become mindful about how my body responds to what I have eaten. Have I been sensitive to my response to what I eat? So this is a very important thing of mindful eating. When you do mindful eating, you yourself know what is agreeable to your system, what is not agreeable to system. If you are an imbalance or you are in a disease state, then better you have to visit an Ayurvedic expert who will create an individualized menu. And that, so just to give broad ideas would be difficult on that part. But if you are healthy, these are the thumb rules which I told.
Right. I'll take the next question. Although I think we have sort of answered this, Are teenagers supposed to control their food, or are they supposed to make their food style more systematic?
It has to be more systematic. As I told you, see, many a times the whole advertising is such a way that when you go in a bar and take a Coca-Cola or a Coke, you feel empowered and hip, modern. But in the same bar, there will be a juice, apple juice or an orange juice, which a teenager will not go for. And this is what is the mindset which we will have to change. Even
Yes.
with we as parent, many a times we have failed to realize that we are still in that colonial mindset. So what was deprived of, I have a lot of exposure in erstwhile Russian countries like USSR countries. What happened the moment they got free from the colonial clutches of USSR and all those things? They started eating everything and anything what was, because during when they were under occupation, they were not allowed to import Western food or any material. They became more sick. Or even in India, see, today we are diabetes capital. Have you ever thought why? Some things we are doing wrong because we have that mindset that okay, when we were somebody told us that your science, your food, your knowledge system is inferior. That psyche is still, and that is not there in Gen Z, what we say. So we need to educate these millennials that you need to understand. It is very political now. We have to be vocal for local, but what I'm saying is that is right. See, when you eat local, whether Alif, if she eats Turkish, she will be healthy. Komang, if she eats Indonesian recipe, she will be healthy. But if I try to be start eating Turkish diet every day, I'll not be healthy. Let's be frank. Even if I go to Turkey or I stay in Scandinavia many a times, I eat, of course, a little different from India, but not recipe wise. I don't change, because as Rishi was telling, though you may adapt to a new environment, where in India I eat more spicy, but when I'm in Scandinavia, I don't eat so spicy, because if I eat, then I would get pitta imbalance. I will get acidity. So these are some things which we have to give counseling to people, and then there is a way out. So for that, you need to go to a good Ayurveda consultant and plan it properly.
Next, we had the question on what to do if we cannot sleep. How do you induce sleep?
First of all, so sleep is dependent on many things. Is it because it is uh, physiologically, or like your physiology has got an imbalance that creates imbalance? Then we'll have to see which dosha. Generally, pitta imbalance and vata imbalance creates sleeplessness or interrupted sleep in pitta, and insomnia in case of vata imbalance, according to Ayurvedic prescription. Very simple prescription I'm trying to say you, but it may not work for chronic insomnia. For that, you need to visit a doctor. But simple thing has been told is pada bhyanga. Just do a foot massage, like take an oil, maybe native regional to your and or sesame oil is best. Then put it in the foot, that is plantar surface, the and then this copper, these days copper cups are available, and just rub this copper cups. This induces a good sleep. It's one of the simple daily regimen told for good sleep. Then drinking milk has also a lot of, see, today with a lot of ill information about milk and milk products and lactose intolerance. See, this all has arrived because we have got into a vicious cycle of hybrid cows. So local breed of cows are all missing, whether it is Turkey or Indonesia or in India, because with colonization, unfortunately, our native breed of wheat and cattle all have been destroyed by so-called commercial multinationals. Now the issue is these food products have become unknown to our genome, nutrigenomics. That's why we have gluten allergy, we have lactose intolerance. See, It was never there sorry, 2 decades back or 50, 60 years back. Why? Because most of the cows were not breeded, interbreeded. They were native breeds. So this is something which is not about being nationalistic or being, it is just about being more scientific. So somehow globalization has made us connected, and that's why Elif is in India or Komang is in India. But what we have to teach, the message of Ayurveda is that the basic thing is you have to globalize, but retain your regional flavor, retain your regionality, but be global in approach and be together, exchange your knowledge. And this is one of the biggest message of Ayurveda, that diversity is what is the way forward.
Absolutely. I think that is why I think we see a stark difference when we see our grandparents, two generations before. Even if they're in their 80s or 90s, they are still healthy. Their skin would still be glowing without really using any of the products that are available. So I think it is a lot about how their lifestyle was, what they consumed.
See, today everybody argues in scientific forum that we have improved the lifespan, or lifespan has increased, and they compare it to 100 years back. See, people, their death was because of oppression. In Europe, people died because of the First World War and Second World War. And in India, people died in a freedom struggle. So death rate was high because of all those things. Or other pandemics which were created in different ways. So the data are quite skewed. So let us be very let us understand this fact that the health in our traditional way, whether any country it was much better than First World War, wherever we are. After that, everything has become like, but yes, globalization is important. And that's why Ayurveda has to play a major role in saying that, see, there are 10 factors which makes you unique. Dushyam, Desham, Balam, Kalam, Analam, Prakritim, Bayam, Sattvam, Satmyam, Ahar, Avastascha. Now, what it means, you have to customize your diet and lifestyle according to your body type, your gene, the country what you live. You have to follow the local country rituals and advices. Seasonal, according to local season, according to local satmya, local recipes, food you have to eat. Now, tell me, which science can talk about, when I talk to my friends in modern medicine and genomic studies expert, they say that this is the highest level of pharmacogenomics that you can talk about, individualization. Now, such a great knowledge was there. Unfortunately, what happens is, because of our kind of a impression that something which is traditional is backward, makes us, not feel. So that's why we need young people to do more research in our traditional practices and food and medicine.
Right, absolutely. I think we'll take maybe two more questions. So one is Vinaji is asking if you can briefly explain the characteristics of Vata, Pitta, and Kapha.
So in my slide, I had said there is so see, you can go to many of the websites are also there. So kind of if you say it from a perspective of skin, dry skin is Vata, sensitive skin is Pitta, a little, moist skin and oily skin is Kapha, then very dry and hair, if you see, like, but again, you have to, is told that when you do body type analysis, the best when you do between 16 to 25, because before that and after that, it gets skewed because of the certain characteristics of the age. So these kind of things are there. Or Kapha, they have a curly hair and thick hair. So these are, it's called as phenotypic expression, that your gene, though, see, have you realized that we all have same 23 pairs of genes? But I look like Dr. Somit and you look like Ayushi. Why? Genes are the same. Or Elif is also having the same 23 genes, which, but we all look different because these 23 genes expresses in different way based on our country, climate, food habit, and our parental lineage. Right. So this is where what you need to understand is, it's very scientific, very nicely written based on population genomics, it's called in scientific language. So they studied a big population, and then they, based on common characteristic, they have grouped into these subtypes. So there are a lot of questions which you have to, if you want, there are a lot of research articles on, you can go, a very good research article is on Ayurgenomics. Please, I would suggest type Ayurgenomics. Mitali Mukherjee, she's one of the professors in molecular biology at JNU. She's done a very good research on this Prakriti analysis. Please go download that article. It has also a Prakriti evaluation form. That's one of the most validated scientific form, and fill, and you can know about those. And there are certain questions which you may not be able to answer that an Ayurveda doctor can analyze. Don't worry, you will have a fair idea about your body type.
Okay, next was that ma'am spoke a lot about grandmothers and mothers. Shouldn't fathers also know equally what to do in the kitchen? I think that was more about ancestral of what we eat. That way, I think in that sense, we talked about mothers and grandmothers. But so you can explain better.
In fact, if you look at Chem Kautuhala, it is one of the most ancient science of Paka Shastra, that is cooking in Ayurveda, is been written by most of the, cooks were male. Organized cooks. So it was called as kind of all the kings and everything were basically had a, see, three profession in ancient India was very important. One was the Jyotisha, that is the astrologer. Yeah. For that you have to be very intelligent, cook, and then Vaidya. See, physicians, cook, and Jyotishi should be very intelligent, it is told in. And cooks, most of them were in male. Like, they have books on ancient cookery is written by males, not by females. So what I'm trying to say is this distinction that males didn't know about cooking or didn't cook is a misconception. Only because of this advancement in when we were in freedom struggle. See, our ancient civilization was more equipoised and women were more empowered than what we see during independence. And it was because of social condition, because women had to protect their children's and males were fighting more freedom struggle, or also opposite. I don't say that they were not, they were more silent and more supportive in the whole struggle. So that has changed a little, but otherwise I don't see that it's kind of a gender disparity that people didn't know, males didn't know about cookery or talking about. I think it's good, but yes, now we have to really educate our males and husbands and father also to cook. In West it is there. I see that parity is there in the West. Thanks for that.
Right. Also, so we have a question that if someone wants to learn about Ayurveda, do we also have some online courses, and if you can recommend some institutions?
See, I say that there are a lot of online courses also by government machineries. So you can go through, there are All India Institute of Ayurveda, which runs online courses. We have like there are a lot of private institutions. I don't want to take any name because it is, I don't want to create any conflict of interest. But then there are enough, please go online and see any online courses are not formal courses. So it will just make you, as Elif was telling, it can give you an introduction to what is Ayurveda, or you can become an Ayurveda enthusiast or a counselor. You cannot become a Ayurveda doctor. If you aspire to become an Ayurveda doctor, you have to do a recognized 5.5-year course of bachelor's and 3 years of master's, 8.5 years of formal education to become a qualified Ayurveda specialist.
And I think last question I would take is somebody was asking, can we also take online courses as passionate endeavor while engaged in some other profession?
Why not? I think Elif or came being in different profession. I know there are On we run many online courses, but then thing is we get only people from different. I've been taking a lot of courses in Slovenia. Recently started with University of Latvia. Uh, Lawyers, and I was quite amazed that people who are in tourism, they are not doing a lot of course in Ayurveda, because there is a lot of medical tourism slowly happening in
Right,
areas where
right.
there are medical spas in Europe. So they are started becoming more interested in doing a course on Ayurveda. So I think um, having the basic knowledge of Ayurveda is not prohibited. Yes, to claim as a doctor of Ayurveda may be exaggerated, but enthusiast and or a kind of a counselor, you can definitely do an online course without a medical background. But if you want to pursue a serious profession, then you have to do these validated course. And soon I would like to share that at this platform that WHO is going to give you a very broad guidelines on practicing Ayurveda, benchmark for practitioners of Ayurveda all over the world. They're coming up with that. And many of the universities are going to start this BMS course, what Alif is doing here or Komang did in India, in many of the foreign universities.
That's wonderful. And I think, like you mentioned, sir, that it's about the passion and it's about how you want to use that, because I think Ayurveda is so much full of possibilities, and it's such a holistic field that there are so many subjects under it. Like you mentioned, medical tourism, or some, like Elif mentioned, in research or counseling or teaching. There is so much. It's, I think, up to you how you want to make use of it and how you want to spread it
Yes.
further.
And Komang was telling, though it's not the best way to propagate Ayurveda, spa industry,
Yes,
beauty
a
industry
lot of
has been
cosmetics and
commercially using these science.
right.
See, my mentor, Dr. Krishna Kumar ji, I had this like as a young aspiring doctor. I asked him very, very, why you show so much of dichotomy of views. One way you tell us, to follow only Shuddha Ayurveda, very, very core, um, you know, evidence-based, scientific Ayurveda, serious Ayurveda. The other way, you also collaborate with Taj for for a wellness center. Why this dichotomy? So he gave me very kind of inspiring answer, which I didn't expect. So he said, Somit, see, you need to introduce or make people feel what this science is all about. So those centers are there to experience what Ayurveda is about, just being an enthusiast. You should be capable enough to convert them into getting interested in serious Ayurveda rather. So there has to be avenues to reaching at people at large. So whatever is going on in the world is spreading the name of Ayurveda. But again, people who are more interested will trickle down, like Komang or Elif. They trickled from the very superficial level to getting known
Right.
to the more deeper truths. They were interested. So the real, it's called as Shastrani Salilam Gunu Dosha Pravartaye Patra Apekshinya Bahu Shutvena Barmait. It means, see, Shastra or medicine and, the weapons cannot be given to everybody. The people who are capable of handling all these things will slowly come to it and then embrace it. So you have to expose to everybody, but people who are interested in more deeper, they will come deep and
Yeah.
experience and then propagate. So I think every format where Ayurveda is taught is fine, as long as it serves the purpose in the
Correct.
best ethical way.
Right. And I'm hopeful that after today's session, we tried to cover a lot of aspects in the limited time with multiple sessions. And I'm really hopeful that the participants are taking that back with them. And hopefully we'll have some trickling down from there as well, who would want to at least research more, learn more about Ayurveda. So I'm really thankful to everybody for joining us and for joining us through the long session. Veena ma'am says that it's an excellent message from your mentor, Dr. Somaji. I really enjoyed your sessions and the inspirational way you presented. Thank you. Thank you, Veena ma'am, and thank you to all the participants. Somit sir, I would request you to give the vote of thanks and we would then close.
Yeah, I think being a host also and a collaborator for this whole Ayurveda Fest, I really thank all of you, all the presenter, Rishi, Anandi, Ma'am, Elif, Komang, and all the team at Soft Power team with all the verticals. I really thank that you all are making the best effort to take this message forward. We don't believe in numbers but quality. So once it is delivered, we want that we should do it the best way. And I really thank the whole gamut of people involved behind this festival. And thank you all from bottom of my heart.
Thank you so much again, Somit sir, for taking out time. And thank you to all the panelists, all the facilitators, and everybody. Thank you, Dr. Rishi, Elif, Dr. Kumang, for taking out time and sharing your insights and so much information with us in the limited time that we have. And thank you again to all the participants as well for staying through the session and joining us.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much. Have a good night, everyone. Namaste.